Welcome to Thursday, September 5th, open session for Carroll County Commissioners. And as we always do, we'd like to start with Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Priority Carroll, I think, Commissioner Guerin, it's your turn.
It is my turn this morning. Good morning, Carroll County. We've got a lot of guests here this morning, so I'm going to forego my priority Carroll to try to speed things along because I know you folks have places to be and things to do. So I will pass on priority Carroll this morning. Thanks.
Well, I'm not going to pass this morning, but thank you, Commissioner Guerin. I've got a couple things.
time,
We're going to
yeah.
be as brief as possible because I do want to not take too much of the time of the guests we have this morning. A couple things from last week. First and foremost, wanted to thank the Clerk of the Courts, Heather Deweese, for taking me on a tour of the courthouse. That was a very interesting and educational tour, and really appreciated her and her staff taking the time to give me a tour and give me some additional information on everything that goes on at the courthouse. Secondly, wanted to mention just real briefly, kids are back in school, which obviously started this week, and of course, there's a lot of other things that we need to keep an eye on in our community, which we should every day. Wanted to mention one organization. I'm just mentioning this one because one, it's in my district, and two, I was involved with them many years ago when I did my Eagle Scout project, but there's a lot of great organizations, so I'm not trying to single out just one. But Shepherd staff on Wednesdays does a wish list Wednesday, and last week they were looking for paper towels and large kitchen trash bags to assist with those in the community. I stopped by earlier this week and dropped off a few things. This week they're looking for, again, tall kitchen bags, trash bags, liquid laundry detergent and pods, as well as paper towels for those in the community. We talk about it during the holiday season, but the reality is we should be looking to assist those in our community every day. So just wanted to share that information as well. And like I said, there's a lot of great organizations, and please consider all of them throughout the year. And last but certainly not least, I wanted to share a quick video that the Historical Society of Carroll County produced with Target Community Educational Services. This is a woman that's working at the Historical Society named Danielle. I've had the opportunity to meet and interact with Danielle. She's a great member of our community, and she is working at the Historical Society. So with that, go ahead, Chris.
We were excited to get Danielle in here because she's so upbeat, so positive, and she's a great representative for the Historical Society. When people enter the Historical Society, they're so happy to see her. They talk to her. She's willing to do anything I ask her to do. She learns new things all the time. She's fantastic.
To say hi, how are you? Dust and clean in the bathroom. Mop, dust, everything for Lauren, Jason, always for them. I love it here.
I would tell another organization to use adults with disabilities in their organization because they're hard workers. They're very intelligent. They are dedicated. They want to do a good job. They want to work hard, and they bring life to the society.
If you're looking for your next employee, be sure to reach out to Target Community and Educational Services at targetcommunity.org.
Thank you, Chris. I just wanted to highlight that for a moment this morning, and just absolutely exceptional member of our community, and just wonderful to see Target and so many other organizations working together with members of our community. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will also be incredibly brief this morning. It's come to my attention, dealing with the power line project, that there have been a number of property owners who've been contacted by individuals who are attempting to buy up their land. And I'm not quite sure whether this has to do with some kind of a scare tactic, or it's a scam, or it's just somebody looking to exploit the situation. But if somebody does try to pressure you into selling your property, say no. Right? Reach out to the commissioners, reach out to the group Stop MPRP. Senator Reedy has also requested that you reach out to him if somebody does attempt to contact you for any of these reasons. And it's just something to be aware of because, as we're going through our struggle and opposition to this power line project, no one of us can do everything, but all this information as it comes to light is incredibly important because we all have to be aware of what it is that we're facing. And so this attempt to buy a property seems to be the latest in a series of interesting incidents. So I just wanted to make everybody alert about that. And again, if you do get contacted by one of these individuals, let us know. And that's it for me this morning. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. I do have a proclamation I'll be talking about in a few minutes. Let's see. Schools are open, so please be aware. Know the laws when it comes to school buses because they can be a bit tricky sometimes, especially on places like Liberty Road where you have 4 lanes and you've got to recognize that if a school bus stops, you must stop in all 4 lanes and they're hefty fines. And the second one's even much more hefty. So more important than the fines themselves is the safety of our children getting on and off those buses. So just, be aware of that. Upcoming next week is 9/11. We do have a ceremony on the 11th. I think it's at 8:30 in the morning over at the training center. Typically, it's a relatively small ceremony, but poignant, and recommend that we all take the opportunity to take that moment, either attend the ceremony or just stop and think about all the fortunate things that we have, because we refuse to stay on bended knee at that moment, and it's just good opportunity again to remember who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. Let's see. Yesterday was my 30th wedding anniversary, and so happy belated anniversary to Audrey. And bottom line is, when I got married, my mom said no give back, so she stuck with me for another 30 plus years, and then we'll go from there. And I think, ladies, you're going to be talking about the Health and Wellness Expo in a little bit, so I will not bring that up, except that is coming up on September 12th, and really look forward to, again, giving back to the community and getting a lot of very, not aggressive, happy, enjoyable, steadfast, aggressive at times, folks inside of the expo, it's just a great time, and we'll be talking about that in just a few minutes after our proclamations. So with that, let me give it back to you, Mr. President, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. And I did see on Facebook your wife posted photos, and she seems very happy with you.
I look pretty good, don't I?
Yes. Number one, I hope everybody had a great Labor Day, a good family time, and of course, school started. One thing I'd like to mention, already, Manchester Valley 15-year-old was hit by a car on Route 30, right by Manchester Motors, and I don't know what we do about that. Within a mile, they don't get a bus. And at Manval, if you walk up Route 30, there's pretty poor sidewalks. There's no crosswalk until you're all the way at York Street. And kids are going to cross. They're not going to go to York Street and come back to Manchester Motors because they live on that side. Now, I think it was 4 or 5 kids, and I'll bet at least half of them were looking at their cell phones. 50-50 the driver was looking at a cell phone. You know, you can't be distracted in school zones. And the one thing I'm wondering is if Manchester or CCPS needs some more blinking lights or something along Route 30 reminding people that it's a school zone. A lot of kids walk into Manchester, and that's a shame. But it's great that we started school. And then my last thing I'd like to say, the State Fair, I think it has one more weekend, but a lot of Carroll County kids show animals there. A lot of Carroll County kids work at the fair, and it's why I'm happy that we don't start school earlier, because we got a lot of kids down in Timonium doing that, and I want to thank them all. And Donna Myers, and I don't know the right title, she and Jason can yell at me later, but she's the head of it, and a big job that she does very well. So I just want to thank everybody involved with the State Fair, and all the Carroll County people that get a lot out of it. And Commissioner Rothstein, you have National Suicide Prevention Month?
Sure, I have a proclamation, so ladies who wants to come up to the table, you can't be alone, unafraid. And I know you have a strong backing behind you. Appreciate the hat.
Yes.
Always appreciate hats. I love hats. Got my 9/11, which is kind of a mess right now. But the bottom line is we're given so many things, and this is a proclamation for Suicide Prevention Month of September 2024. But it really is, we should remind ourselves it's a proclamation for prevention every day, 24/7. And I've shared with you my stories from the installation and the importance of resilience and reducing the stigma associated with putting people in positions where they feel that there's no way out. And unfortunately, they succumb to those stigmas and take their own lives for so many different reasons. So we need to intervene, one person at a time, one group at a time. I believe it's our not just responsibility, but our calling as citizens in our community to intervene and proclaim this month Suicide Prevention Month and engage with those that we should care so much about. So whereas September is known, I need to wear my glasses because I'm not going to be able to do this. Oh, it's getting old. Is known globally as Suicide Prevention Month. Suicide prevention is a community effort, and there are community resources to help. And whereas suicide is preventable, through building awareness and essential skills, anyone can support people at risk. Asking someone if they're thinking about suicide does not increase the risk of suicide. It can open a conversation that can save a life. If a loved one is showing warning signs and or experiencing a mental health crisis, ask the question and connect to help. And whereas suicide prevention training raises awareness and builds skills that can help to save lives, mental health first aid and youth mental health first aid training teach initial skills to support and connect to help an individual experiencing a mental health challenge or crisis. Question, persuade, and refer, QPR, is a training to address an individual who may be experiencing thoughts of suicide or in a suicide crisis. Free training is available through the Carroll County Health Department. And whereas everyone in Carroll County can connect to a local behavioral health crisis, call specialists through the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. People experiencing mental health or substance use crisis can call or text 988 lifeline.org, and whereas relationships with loved ones and our communities are essential to our overall well-being, with social isolation rising, prioritizing social connection in our lives is more important than ever. Social connection has a tremendous positive impact on mental, emotional, and physical health. And whereas stigma associated with mental health illness and suicidality works against suicide prevention by discouraging persons at risk for suicide for seeking life-saving help and further traumatizes survivors of suicide. In general, avoid using language around suicide that reinforces negative stereotypes and prejudice. It's important to emphasize hope and recovery. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September 2024 as Suicide Prevention Month, signed this day by all county commissioners. And, you know, it's one of those things, you read a lot, and the intent is that we try to gather just a few of the words, you know, prevention, stigma, stepping in, engagement, because we're going to forget all this other blah, 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 and it's a nice little proclamation. But, I think since 988 started a few years back, if you can share with us a little bit about, what you've been doing in the office, but also the other tools that have been started to being used, and have they been making a difference? You know what I feel about all of you, and the strength and courage that you have in the work you're doing. But if you can kind of start with that, and then maybe we can go around. So.
Perfect, thanks.
Kathy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kathy Baker, the Carroll County Local Behavioral Health Authority. Thank you for hearing our proclamation and reading our proclamation to the county. 988 is very important to us, and the lady sitting next to me will speak a little bit more about 988 and other resources that are available in the community for community members. I think the one big thing is what we would like to do, if we can. My mission before I leave is to have 988 in everybody's home. I want everybody to know that 988 is available, as well as 911, and use the resources that are available for the appropriate services, right? Law enforcement doesn't need to respond to somebody who's in crisis, mental health crisis, unless there's a serious issue. The 988 counselors will provide some additional counseling for them, and they can defer from hospitalizations and those kinds of things that are traumatic for people that are having a mental health crisis. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy and Veronica from our office, and they'll introduce themselves and give you a little bit more information. We also have one of our peer recovery staff who's going to speak a little bit about her own personal experience, and then we'll.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sorry. My name is Amy Legel. I'm the Director of Prevention Services for the Carroll County Health Department. And I also want to recognize my colleague, Brooke Fox, who is helping to oversee suicide prevention efforts for the Carroll County Health Department. So you'll be seeing and hearing more from her as well. And when Brooke and I thought about what we wanted to share with you today, we really wanted to prioritize connecting to hope. So I'd like to just share a little bit of information and then answer your question more directly, if that's okay, Commissioner Rothstein. And I also need my glasses. So we are focused on this month the importance of connecting to hope. And also that everyone in the community really has a role to play in suicide prevention. And I think the more we speak about it, and you're very helpful with that, Commissioner Rothstein, the more it helps to normalize just talking about this. And so we want to make sure, first and foremost, that people are checking in with loved ones and just forming social connections and prioritizing those social connections. The trainings that we talked about can really help people get comfortable with recognizing warning signs, asking questions that can be difficult. So we want to make sure that everyone in the community knows that those resources are available. We also want to talk about a couple of other opportunities for the community to be involved. The first 988 Day is happening on September 8th, and the theme of that day is No Judgment, Just Help. So we can take an opportunity on September 8th to maybe tell someone who isn't aware, or maybe wear our hats or carry a bag or just get the word out there and spread awareness about 988. World Suicide Prevention Day is September 10th. And it's a time to remember those who have been affected by suicide and to raise awareness. So we will be wearing yellow at the health department as an observance. And everyone is welcome to wear yellow with us and post something on social media just to show that solidarity and that we are all in this together as a community. There is an Out of the Darkness walk on September 14th. That's at Krimgold Park, and it's from 9 to noon. These walks actually happen all over the country, so it's a real show of strength and solidarity to send the message that suicide can be prevented and that no one is in this alone. So I also want to just thank you very much for taking the time to recognize this and for always talking so openly about this, Commissioner Rothstein specifically, and just give you a little bit of information about some of the initiatives that we're working on. So we do have several mental health and youth mental health first aid instructors. We also have several instructors for Question, Persuade, Refer, which is a shorter training that helps people get comfortable recognizing warning signs and asking those important questions if someone is thinking about suicide, and follow-up questions. And those services are all free. Mental health first aid is offered through Carroll Community College in partnership with them. And Question, Persuade, Refer, you can contact the health department. We'd be happy to set up community trainings. We also have medication locking bags, and through our safe storage and proper disposal options and priorities, which you hear us talk a lot about through take-back events, that is not only to prevent diversion, to prevent substance use, it's also to prevent suicide in that time-limited crisis when someone may have access to medication. So we also do provide medication locking bags for the families of pediatric suicide patients who have had suicidal ideations with Carroll Hospital and CCYSB. We also have a suicide prevention coalition, and we have held one meeting. We actually have previously also had a coalition, but have rebooted it. We're engaged in some strategic planning initiatives, and we were fortunate to have a lot of key stakeholders from agencies attend that coalition meeting and participate in a planning activity where we were trying to identify some local contributing factors in Carroll County so that we can effectively direct our funding. We are able to reallocate some of our funding to support the critically important Sources of Strength program in Carroll County Public Schools, which is an evidence-based suicide prevention program, has a very robust evidence base behind it that's very interesting, and it's a peer-led program. We worked with the Columbia Lighthouse, and I know Veronica's going to talk a little bit about this, the Columbia Lighthouse Project, which is a suicide screening that anyone in the community can use, professionals, neighbors, people like us, agency people, so anyone can use it. We did that screening, Commissioner Rothstein, I knew you were there, for over 300 people at Risky Business. And as a bureau, we're going to be prioritizing getting that training out to the community as well. So making it as easy as possible for anyone in the community to learn about how they can play a role in suicide prevention and become a little bit more comfortable should they be in a situation where they need to ask that question. We're also working diligently on just communications and raising awareness through social media. And we're going to be hiring a part-time staff person to focus exclusively on this.
Good morning, Commissioners. Veronica Dietz. I'm the Director of Crisis Services at the Carroll County Health Department. As many of you know, we do have many initiatives under the Crisis Services Unit that do work on and address individuals who are experiencing crises. Our biggest one, of course, is that we receive funding through the Behavioral Health Administration to have a mobile crisis team embedded here in Carroll County. We are continuing to look at ways that we can expand out the funding, to expand out that service. We have been privileged to be a part of the Central Maryland Regional Crisis System, which allows us to, in collaboration with Howard, Baltimore County, and Baltimore City, have access to additional resources, a call center, the access to walk-in services throughout the counties, as well as an additional mobile response team that's available and located actually outside of Eldersburg. So they can respond and support our local team to meet with people in the community who are experiencing a behavioral health crisis. In addition, we do train law enforcement in a program called Crisis Intervention Team. It's a way for the Behavioral Health Authority to work alongside of law enforcement and partner Oftentimes, people call 911 because they're in a crisis. And as we are working to roll out 988 and ensure that everybody knows and understands that 988 is the place to go for a behavioral health crisis, really taking some of that responsibility off of law enforcement so that they can do the very difficult job of public safety. But while they have kind of that main focus right now, we work alongside of them to give them training in behavioral health issues. And one of the things that we have been doing over the last year is training all of our CIT officers in the Columbia Lighthouse Project's suicide assessment severity rating scale. So all of our CIT trained officers, which are about 100 throughout the county, are trained to ask 6 questions that will give them the idea of whether or not the individual they're engaging with is at a high, a moderate, or a low risk for suicide. What we understand about suicide is there is a level of ambivalence that is pervasive. Most people don't want to die. They don't want to be in the extreme behavioral health crisis that they're in. What they're dealing with are overwhelming feelings, and that leads to these thoughts of suicide. And so what we have trained our officers to do is ask some questions. And what we do know is that oftentimes when people are given the ability and the opportunity to talk about what they're feeling, they take it. They really do want to be able to process what's going on. They want that to be normalized. They want to know that there's hope. And so our CIT trained officers provide that. They are able to meet with folks, talk with them, ask these questions, give feedback. You know, if a person is at a lower risk with suicidal ideation, if they're taken to the hospital, oftentimes that can really delay their engagement with behavioral health services. Hospital, time at the hospital can be traumatic. They're oftentimes there for many hours. And what we don't want is we don't want people to not follow through with services. And so if we can have an officer who is compassionate and empathetic and goes out and meets with them and gives them a minute to hear what's going on and says, I have some colleagues or I have some resources, that will ensure that individuals in our community get connected more appropriately and more effectively. So we're really excited about that initiative. We're working so that we try very hard to make things as easy as possible for our law enforcement partners. And so one of the things that we're working to do is have that CSSRS, which is the severity screening, embedded into their police, one or police mobile, to have access to those forms readily so that they're not having to carry around a lot of things and it's easy for them to connect and ask those questions. So we're really excited about that initiative. We are continuing to look at expanding our crisis continuum to meet the needs of all of our community members, from our youngest to our very oldest. Additionally, we are continuing to train our own provider teams. We have our quick response team that's located out of Westminster Police Department, who are also trained in the CSSRS. We know that there are quite a number of our overdoses that are actually suicide attempts or suicides. And so it's important for our team that's responding to overdose survivors to have that language and to be able to talk with people about what's going on for them, link them to the right kinds of resources, and provide that hope and that support. So we welcome any questions that you have, but know that we are diligently working to make this completely preventable type of death extinguished.
Absolutely.
Hello, my name is Christine, and I am a peer recovery specialist. I would like to share a little bit about my personal experience with you about my recovery with mental health and my battle with suicide. As a young person of 6 years old, I had experienced intrusive thoughts of ending my life, and they never went away. I kept them to myself, and they haunted me in different periods of my life. My date of recovery is the day that I found acceptance of my mental illness, suicidality, and created a lifelong treatment plan tailored for me. I slowly learned how to recover out loud, and it gave me my power to pursue happiness. That gave me a ripple effect for others to talk about their struggles. One person in particular, that was my son, a middle schooler at the time in Carroll County, reached out for help after his suicide attempt. Today, a few years later, he is doing amazing. He is an honor student, the kindest being I know, about to start the welding program at the Tech Center. And the very most important thing is that he can identify when his mental health is taking a dive and when he needs more support. What your proclamations do for us and our community is acknowledge individuals who have been bombarded by stigma, as well as their own mindsets, telling them that they are a burden. Thank you for seeing us and holding space for us to shamelessly recover out loud. And I wanted to encourage people from personal experience that the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention has an amazing website that really connected me that this is a medical thing that we've dealt with. And then the National Alliance of Mental Illness is also a wonderful resource. And 988, if you don't have the voice to speak, their text and chat online is amazing as well. They meet you where you're at. So if you don't have the voice to talk about these things, you can text them, you can chat them. They're there for you.
Christine, very well said. Comments?
I think it's hard to add to that. Thank you so much for all of your work and all the support for the people out there who aren't in the audience. I know there's a lot of people in this county, a lot of good people working to address this issue and a lot of others. But thanks for being here. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I would just echo that, but yes, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story as well, and thank you to everyone, both here and those that are not here today, that are looking out for those in our community, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks for the hat, thanks for the bag. I typically don't wear a baseball cap, but I've traditionally in my office, and I do now, have a coat tree, and it will go on the coat tree for anybody to see that comes in and out. And I really respect the one phrase, overwhelming feelings, because to me, we all worry about this, we all focus on this, and you guys see it way more than I, but it seems like so many times, and unfortunately, there's been a couple close to me, and you always say, not always, majority of the time you say, well, I didn't see any warning signs. Well, I didn't see this. And there are others where you do, and maybe you're in denial. But I just feel like the more you can do to push some of the warning signs that should wake us up about it, because, and particularly younger ages, you know, I look back at school 100 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, if you were overwhelmed, if you had a zit, you know, I mean, it's not, it doesn't take something earth-shattering to make you feel overwhelmed. And it's so hard to recognize that and show empathy and understanding. And I don't know how we fix that, but I'm sure you guys will.
And thank you, for everything that you do. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but it's a necessary thing. And God bless every single one of you for it. And I wanted to ask, for somebody who hasn't been to a class or who doesn't really have a background, if they want to talk to someone about the issue, right? If they want to talk to someone who they think is suicidal, what's the best way to approach them to start that conversation? Because if I don't know the basics of it, I would be afraid that if I said to someone, hey, how are you feeling? I might drive them in the other direction. So what's the most non-obtrusive way to be able to have that conversation with someone?
Either way, I would just say thank you for that question. And I think you actually highlight a myth that is very pervasive with suicide, that talking about suicide will make people think about it and then go do it. In fact, what we know is that asking the question, hey, have you been thinking about killing yourself? Have you been thinking about going to sleep and not waking up? Have you ever had thoughts of not wanting to be here? Those are the absolute questions to ask, because what it does is it gives the person that is struggling with that relief to know, like, oh, okay, so somebody is seeing this, or, oh, I really needed to talk about this. I would encourage folks to consider the Question, Persuade, Refer course. It's a way to just kind of quickly, very shortly ask some questions, get a sense of what is going on, and then make some links to the most appropriate community providers. Additionally, the Columbia Lighthouse Project, if you go online to Columbia Lighthouse Project, just Google Columbia Lighthouse Project, the purpose there and the goal there is to first recognize that this is a public health issue. This is everybody's issue. We have to be checking on folks. We got to check on our neighbors. We got to check on our spouses. We've got to check on our first responders. We've got to check on our students. We've got to check in with our coaches and coaches with their athletes. It gives the language to every community member, the questions to ask, the way to go about asking those questions, and then what to do if somebody is expressing significant suicidal thought to get them to the right person. So I think that's a great question, and I think it's one that we want to continue to talk about. It's a myth to say, well, if I talk with someone or if I ask someone directly, are you having these thoughts, that it will make them want to do it. Asking the question actually gives relief, and it gives them the way to begin the process of talking. So
It's simple as a way of saying something like, hey, I see you and you matter.
And I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just very quickly going to add to that taking the mental health first aid course and then actually becoming an instructor, this was a very common question, and I agree with Veronica, it's a very important question. And it can be as simple as starting out by just saying, I'm concerned. I noticed that you seemed really down lately, or I noticed this, or whatever it is and just sharing that concern and then directly asking, are you thinking of killing yourself? It is a difficult question. That's why the classes can help. There are role play scenarios where they help us get just more comfortable asking the question and being prepared for whatever the answer is. And I also want to say that's the benefit of 988 as well. It's not just for the individual who may be experiencing a crisis or those thoughts. It's for the family member who may ask the question and then have that resource right there and say, why don't we call together? I can stay right here with you. So thank you for that question.
Sometimes I think we may want to change our mindset that that person may think of you as an answered prayer to bring up that conversation, to have that conversation. Maybe that was a conversation they were asking to have internally because they didn't know how to bring it up. Sometimes we say, let's look for the adultier adult, the more experienced person, the person that can handle the situation. But how do we approach that person? And for you to come up to someone and say, hey, are you thinking of suicide? That gives them breaks down that barrier there for them.
Thank you all very much for that.
Yeah, I can have a conversation about this for a long time because it matters. And, I've gone through a lot myself. I continue to go through a lot. And I'm very open about that. I use the term life is good, and it really, really is. And it's not just, and I look back at, when did I start using that? It was quite a while ago, because it really sucks on the other side. And so I'm all about life is good. And the other is the listen, learn, lead approach. And a lot of times, for me, you don't know when you're actually injecting yourself in that listen and learning approach. And when the 6 questions, it's good training. It's very good training. But it reminded me of a time, and it was quite a while ago, I had just retired, and a young soldier came up to me, and I was with my wife, and he said, sir, I just want to thank you. I said, okay, you're welcome. What'd I do? And he said, well, you saved my life. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to explain this a little bit more. So I got Audrey away from me, and he and I went off to the side. And it was a young soldier who got himself in trouble. And the command wanted to basically throw the book at him and get him out, because we're not a charity, in the military. But there was a root cause, and I didn't know what the root cause was. So I kind of made a deal with them saying, we're going to find the root cause and then get the appropriate discipline necessary. Because of that extra step, I didn't know that's what was going on within him. And he was diagnosed with PTSD, and he got himself the help he needed, and he was able to thank me years later. And the reason I'm sharing this is, you don't know a lot of times when you're injecting. You don't, but that's what leaders do. We take the time to sit on the bench, like in the video seeing the cop sitting on the bench next to the person and saying, do you mind? And they pull out the questions. I mean, that's as straightforward as you're going to get. So I appreciate, and you know this, I appreciate all that you do. I'm an open book about who and what I am, and also available to you at any given time. So just remember that. And I will do my best to continue to make time for you. But until then, why don't we get a nice picture with this proclamation and whoever you want up here, and we'll go from there, okay?
Thank you very much.
Stay up here, go down. Stay up here.
Yeah, there's enough of them up here. Whoever wants to be in the middle, we'll just stay up here this way. You make us look thin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
you.
I'll see you in a minute.
See you in a minute.
And now Commissioner Vigliotti is going to talk about Recovery Month.
Oh, you're welcome to come on down, and anybody you want to bring down with you.
One more time.
So I will read the proclamation and then turn it over to you. So I have a proclamation for Recovery Month, September 2024. Whereas National Recovery Month is an observance held each September, beginning in 1989, to promote and support new evidence-based treatment and recovery practices, the emergence of a strong and proud recovery community, and the dedication of service providers and community members across the nation who make recovery in all its forms possible. And whereas recovery is defined by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration as a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential. In September, we celebrate with all individuals walking their path to recovery. No matter what the path looks like, regardless of how far they have come or have yet to go, the journey is yours alone, and we celebrate each of you. And whereas, through Recovery Month, we seek to share a message of hope. Recovery is possible. SAMHSA's theme for every Recovery Month, The Art of Recovery, highlights the transformative impact of art on mental health and substance use recovery. Through creative expression, individuals can find connection, healing, and empowerment. And whereas, we encourage anyone in our community needing support to take that first step. Your first step could be shaky, or it could be a long stride. It does not matter so long as you are starting your journey. And whereas, peer recovery support services are an important aspect of the recovery journey, peers have a personal understanding of substance use, addiction, and mental wellness. The unique perspective of peers in our community allows you to walk your journey with support and understanding when you are ready. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September as Recovery Month in Carroll County and commend this observance to all citizens. Adopted this 5th day of September 2024, signed to the entire Board of Carroll County Commissioners. All up to you.
Thank you. Kathy Baker, Carroll County Local Behavioral Health Authority again. I thank you, Commissioners, for recognizing Recovery Month. It is a very important month for us to recognize. We do this every day in our agency. We recognize the fact that hope is possible. Even it's just a simple phone call or whatever to say, I need some help. We encourage people to call. I see there's a picture up on the screen of the county office building.
Yep.
Lit up in purple. It is Go Purple Month for us, so we appreciate, I think the state's attorneys supported some of those efforts, as well as some grassroots agencies have supported the Go Purple. And we are, I think you're going to talk about a recovery event that we're hosting So I just want to thank again, and we love our peers, persons with lived experience, because they bring something that some of us can't bring to the table. They can have those tough conversations with individuals because they've been there and they've walked that journey. So, I mean, matter of fact, going to turn it over to a couple of our peers right now.
Thank you. Jermaine Thornton. I'm also an employee at the Carroll County Health Department. I'm the peer recovery supervisor, and I like what Mr. Commissioner Rothstein said. Life is good. You know, through my journey of addiction, I remember spending a good amount of time across the street and seeing this building, and here I am now sitting in the commissioners speaking with you guys. That's a big turn for me, and that's all due to my recovery. I grew up in the county, grew up here in Westminster, and my addiction took me to some places I never thought I would be, like many of us. I've lost family members, I lost friends, and continued to use, and it wasn't until for me that if I didn't change, I was too afraid to staying the same to making a change, if that makes sense. And when that day came to make a change, I reached out to just people in the community that I knew would give me assistance in my journey. I didn't know my journey would be this long. Today I'm sitting here with 9 years clean and sober from drugs and alcohol. And that's not to say that, life still doesn't show up, right? But through this journey of recovery, I have learned different skills, different coping skills, different ways to deal with issues in my life. And also, I have a community of people that will show up for me on a daily basis, on an hourly basis if I need be. When I first started working at the health department, I didn't think I would be good at what I did, but I realized very quickly that me having the lived experience in addiction and the lived experience in recovery helps so many people, but I wish years ago when I tried to start a journey in recovery, I had someone that been in my shoes that could, I could relate to. And that's what it is, and we're able to challenge our participants, we're able to guide our participants, and most of all, give them hope. Especially for me, because I come in contact with a lot of people that knew me in active use and haven't seen me for years, and then see me, today, and I'm like, wow, you're clean and sober? If you can do that, I can do that, and some people may look at that as like, wow, that's messed up, someone would say that, but no, it's great. That's the hope I want to give to my community. And as Kathy said, we have an event today, a recovery celebration down at the city park from 2 to 4. Some other providers are coming to support and, present what they do, and just asking everyone to come out, celebrate recovery, whether you're on the fence of getting in recovery or in recovery, come through. We have some giveaways, we have some ice cream from the cow, so that's always good on a nice day like today. But lastly, I would like to say I thank the commissioners for recognizing recovery, because this wasn't talked about years ago, and today it's talked about and it is supported in this county. Thank you.
My name is Dawn, and I am, bless you, I'm a peer recovery specialist from Carroll County Health Department, and I'd just like to personally thank you and the community for always extending a hand. There is some stigma, but this community really embraced me in a time when there still was a lot of stigma, and I never had a door shut that was meant not to be shut. So the biggest part, every day I get up and I get excited about coming to work, because I want to give back what was given to me. Like Jermaine said, that hope. I want to be there for someone. And it doesn't always happen right away. Sometimes it's just that seed, and it sits there, and when the time is right, that person will hopefully, remember and be able to reach out and get that help that they want when they want it. So, I never thought I would be in a position to get paid because of my experience, I'd like to say I was a little bit of a menace to society at first, and so now I feel I need to give back to the community that supported me through that. So, and that's my hope, and it's a joy to work amongst my teammates every day. I appreciate that, and it works. It works if you work it, if you put the work into it. And like Jermaine said, life shows up, but taking those maladaptive coping skills and learning a new way. I too have lost family members, but the most important person I lost that helped me to come back into recovery was myself. Once I could recognize that, everything turned around for me. So thank you again for being there and supporting us.
I just want to say one
Yeah,
more
please.
thing, if I can. I'm
Yes, please.
sorry.
No, please,
Commissioner. We are not the only agency in the community that has peers, and I think that's something to be said. The hospital has peer recovery specialist, Access Carroll has a peer recovery specialist, and I think there are many other local providers that have peers. So it's nice to see that this is a movement towards, accessing that service. So, sorry.
No, not at all. I was just going to say that, it's, you two are proof that iron sharpens iron. You talk about the importance of community and recognition and having people who are there to help walk you through this. And now, in turn, you've been able to help others as well. And it comes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago with suicide prevention, that, every life does matter. It's a precious gift from God. And I cannot thank you guys enough for what it is that you do. Seriously, God bless you. And gentlemen, any thoughts?
Yeah, thank you again for being here, sharing your stories. And did you want to mention that event again today, the time and place for
Yes,
people?
it's
who
at the Westminster City Park where the pavilions are from 2 to 4. Everyone is welcome, whether you're in recovery, thinking about recovery, or just want to support someone in recovery.
Or just one ice cream.
Or just
One
one
ice
ice
cream.
cream.
And then we'll have a conversation. That's right.
And it's
We'll
a
talk about
beautiful-
988.
And it's a beautiful day to have it.
Yes, it is.
So, okay, thank you.
You chose the day well.
Yes, you did.
Just want to thank you both. I really appreciate you coming in and giving, your heartfelt testimony and everything. And, we all can talk about it, but people that have experienced and been through it, to me, and I might be wrong, but I think to me that, folks like you are the people that are going to really touch people because, you have that experience and that relationship. And I just want to thank you both for all your hard work, and I appreciate all the work you're doing over at the health department, so thank you very much.
And thank you for being strong. It's we're all touched by this, some of us more than others, and it frustrates me. I'll do 3 things quickly. One, I had a family member I thought was pretty much fully recovered, had a condo, had a pickup truck, had a bank account. Within 30 days, was totally broke, and wearing my clothing took his life. We probably saw it, we just didn't know what to do. And then another recently told my wife, I'm going to backslide the rest of my life. You might as well get used to it. He went out and bought Coke, and we thought he was getting this close. Went out and bought Coke, and is paying the price now. But, it's like, what's the magic answer? What's the thing that you say, holy mackerel, I don't want to do this anymore? And then we've got one younger one who is going to spend some time next door. Got one more court date coming up. And his words to us, I don't need recovery. I don't have a problem. You know, and it's just, it's so frustrating. And then to see obvious people with strength that you did it, and congratulations. But, you know, it's, we're all looking for the magic answer that makes somebody else click. And there's such a great network in Carroll County. You know, it's, we have various friends talking to both the guys that are still with us, and, you know, every time we think we're this close, it's a slip up, and sometimes the slip up's bad enough you like start over. You know, it's not like, you know, it's not like, you know, I do something stupid tomorrow and the next day it's forgotten. It's, you slip like that, it's not forgotten. And so thank you so much for all you do. And there's so many out there that still need the magic answer to make that step. And thanks for helping with that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, nobody knows Carroll County better than Carroll Countyans. And like Commissioner Kyler shared, we got an awesome community. You know, what tools do we have in the toolbox? Because sometimes you need a hammer, but sometimes the hammer ain't gonna work, and you need something very small chiseling away at that big block of granite that takes years. I mean, you've been in recovery for 9 years, Jermaine. That's freaking awesome. But it didn't start off that way, you know. And fortunately, we are blessed to have continuing tools in those toolboxes, whether it's recognition over at City Park, you know, or it's the 3 days with 988, you know, that we have coming up starting next week. These are great opportunities, and none of them are standalone. That's the thing. They all blend together with a common purpose, and that common purpose is, you know, the quality of life and the healthiness of Carroll Countyans. So I applaud you, and I just ask, kind of like what I asked the last group, is what else can we do? What other things can we do above and beyond the advocacy, the proclamation, the lighting of the building, and, you know, test us, you know. Sometimes the answer is going to be no. Sometimes the answer can be, well, one of us can engage, like going to City Park and hanging with a few folks, or being, you know, at one of these events in September. Just continue that dialogue. We're very fortunate. We have the health department in Carroll County that's dedicated to the things you're doing. That's, you know, second to none. And we have Carroll Countyans like you and those that are around you that are willing to open up. So thank you very much. That's it.
You're welcome to attend the event this afternoon and get ice cream.
They pushing that ice cream there.
You want to come up and do a picture?
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you again. Thank you. Great story. I love stories with good endings.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I get 2 hugs.
Now that we've talked a bunch, we're going to now hear about Aging Your Way, correct?
And I guess some of us should pay a little more attention than others.
Oh, man, I tell you.
I had to beat Commissioner Rothstein to the
Yeah,
punch
yeah,
on that
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
Although he was saying a few minutes ago he can't read without his glasses. So
I know.
I don't
I
know.
would never have said that.
And I've seen him lose 20 pair of glasses in my brief time with him.
Ladies, come on.
Good morning, Commissioners. We wanted to come before you this morning as we approach our Aging Your Way Health and Wellness Expo, which is coming up on September 12th. We have rebranded the Seniors on the Go Expo to the Aging Your Way Health and Wellness Expo. So if people have questions, it is the same great event that we've always hosted, only we are moving into a new era with our rebranding and also being even more innovative and creative with what we have going on at the expo this year. So I am joined today with Gina Valentine, our Bureau Chief of Aging and Disabilities, and then also Victoria Parks, who is our project coordinator for the department, but she also is exclusively our expo coordinator. So she is going to give us some information, but first we'll turn it over to Gina to talk a little bit more about the event itself and give you some highlights and details.
So good morning, Commissioners. Again, the event is on September 12th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Shipley Arena of the Carroll County Ag Center. It's a free event that's open to the public with over 100 vendors, that will be present. We'll have a lot of on-site resources to connect not only older adults, but individuals with disabilities and veterans and their caregivers as well. There is something for everyone at the expo. That day, we'll be offering complimentary therapies and health screenings, seminars that will be provided by the Carroll County State's Attorney's Office, which are always very popular, and the Carroll Tech Council. There'll be community program demonstrations and so much more. And before I turn it over to Victoria, I'm going to embarrass her by telling her how much, and just recognizing her for all of her hard work on this expo. It's the second expo that she's done, and she makes it look like she's been doing it for 10 years. So it'll be a very well-organized event, and we just really appreciate all of your hard work.
I appreciate that. I don't know if I make it look that effortless, but you got to
She
fake it
does.
till you
She
make
really
it.
does.
Well, this, like was mentioned already by Celine and Gina, this is our Aging Your Way Expo, formerly the Seniors on the Go Expo. This is the 17th year for the Wellness Expo, and like Gina said, my second. But the wonderful thing that we're seeing throughout that time period is that there really is no art of aging. Aging in itself is continuously changing. We're seeing community members remain active within the community, active within their personal lives as well. And as a whole, we are living longer. So we want to make the most of life. Like Commissioner Rothstein said, life is good, so you want to take every moment you can from it. Some of the great things that we're bringing in this year, we will have a pickleball court on site. So we'll have the Carroll County Pickleball Association, Carroll County Pickleball Association on hand. We will have the Carroll County Department of Fire and EMS. They'll be sharing a CPR and Stop the Bleed training. We will be having 12 free on-hand screenings, and then 3, I apologize, this is my first time here, so we're a little nervous. 3 complimentary therapies as well. Like was mentioned, this is a free event, just another way to connect the community with the ever-evolving resources that we have on hand, and it's just a wonderful day to kind of come out and see the entire community come together as a whole. It's, like what was shared, this is my second year, and it's a little humbling to see the amount of people that really do come out and want to give back to our aging population.
And lunch will also be available during the day. We'll also have a medication take back as well, and the very popular vendor prize bingo that will be held from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. So we hope people will come out and join us and obtain a lot of information that will be available to them that day.
I did want to add, we also have a wonderful planning committee that consists of a lot of community partners that pull in. I'm sure you've seen the signs. They're black and white signs, the yard signs. You've got one right at the entrance of the county office building, all over town, all over the county. And our marketing team, which consists of members outside of Carroll County government, they have been out there plugging these signs in, making sure that this event is well-known, reaching out to other vendors that are participating, asking if they'll market the event for us as well, to make sure we pull in everybody that this may impact or give a positive resource to that they've been looking for but didn't know where to find it. So we want to thank the committee that has worked very hard, and it starts all year long. They're planning for the next event. So we want to appreciate them and thank them, and that includes the health department pulls in to help with this process as well. And obviously the 988 piece that they just talked about, there will be a lot of materials and information at the event with their tables as well that will be handed out. So it's a great collaborative event for not just the health department and ourselves, but all the agencies and vendors throughout the county and beyond.
Well, thank you all very much for coming in to talk to us about this, and Victoria and everybody, thank you for putting this together. You know, it's interesting to me because all kidding aside, Americans are living a lot longer, and they're doing a lot more with the lives that they do have. And, we kind of have this idea that when you get old, you don't matter anymore, but you do matter, right? You have experience, you have wisdom, you have understanding about things that younger people don't necessarily have. And you are still a vital, active, and core part of who we are in this community and who we are as Americans, and that our county offers something like this. It just speaks to the heart of who we are as a county. So thank you for what you do.
Commissioner Kyler, you do matter.
Do I?
You do.
We're not going to do
but,
we're not going to do a group hug or
no, we're
something,
not. But pickleball sounds good as long as Celine's not playing. So And are you going to have the? I heard about the drug take back, but those bags where you can put the medicine in, put water
doTERRA
in.
bags?
The what?
I'm not sure. Do we still have some of those? The doTERRA?
doTERRA, we have the Dispose RX, which is a single packet that you dump in your prescription bottle and then put Medaville water in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you'll have those, because those are great. I mean, having one or two of those in your, what do you call it, linen closet, your closet.
cabinet.
Yeah, that thing. And I mean, they help out so much because there's all these medications that are just there, and so yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, cool. Okay.
We'd love to get a picture, and Victoria has been pretty innovative and got us a nice picture frame for our new rebranding effort. So if we could get that with you folks, we'd appreciate that.
Before that, thanks for all you're doing, and you look very relaxed and like this was easy. So thank you. And one of the things, and I try to always remind people, I love Carroll County. The more you talk, so many groups in Carroll County are working together to make this a great activity, and that doesn't happen in other counties. So thank you for making that relaxing and making that happen.
Mr. Vigliotti is trying to fix my hair.
There's a lot of us, but if we hold it,
I can.
Oh, look at this.
Here, maybe I can hold it.
We want to get you in the picture too.
Here, no, yeah, maybe if I hold it far enough away. Okay.
Probably gonna have to come up here, I'm guessing.
Don't get me in the picture.
No, I'll. There you go. All right. Thank you.
we do just one without it that way, just in case.
Just in case.
There we go.
I guess we're doing a group hug after all, huh, Commissioner?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good luck with it.
Thank you so much.
Such great topics. And
Oh, yeah.
our next item is the local care team annual report.
Okay.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning again, Commissioners. I'm joined today by Maria Lowry, who is our local care team coordinator. Ed Singer, you know Ed well, our local management board manager. And then we have Heidi D. Rohut from the Department of Social Services. She is our local care team chair. It takes two individuals, Maria and Heidi, to help with the process with local care team. We wanted to provide you with an annual overview of the past year's work that our local care team has done. And as you recognized earlier, students are back to school. And what that means is there are a lot of things going on. We get a lot of referrals from Carroll County Public School System for our local care team because there are a lot of youth that may have some more intense needs. And this local care team serves as a local convener of different providers that can come together as a multidisciplinary team and work with the family to talk about how these individuals are connecting to the resources that are provided and making sure that connection is happening. And if it's failing, how can we help to support these individuals and families to get those connections to work for them as we do warm handoffs from one agency to another to make sure we're coordinated and collaborative. So what we want to do is talk about what this very important team does and share some of the stats from the past year. And I'm going to turn it over to Maria, who can help us with that presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Before we begin, I did want to take the opportunity to introduce Heidi D. Rohut. She is the Supervisor of In-Home Family Services with the Department of Social Services. And as Celine mentioned, she does serve as our LCT Chair. So Heidi?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Just a little bit of history for myself. I've been with the department for 23 years. And I have been on the local care team for the last 10 years. And I have acted as a facilitator and chair for all of those 10 years. So,
Awesome.
Yes, thank you. I think Maria wanted me to share a little bit about the importance of the local care team meeting. The Department of Social Services, we feel very importantly about connecting families to resources, to support families, to keep children in the homes with those families. A lot of times when these families are coming to this table, it is a collaborative meeting with the family participates in this meeting. We are creating a family action plan for them. A lot of times they're in crisis and they're looking at having their children being removed from the home. As we are aware, is an extra trauma for a child to be removed out of the home. So we want to do everything in our possibility to keep the family together, connect them to those resources in their community, do some follow-up with them, provide those supportive services. A lot of times families are not aware of the resources that are in the community to support them. We're connecting them to case management services. We talked about the peer recovery. There are families that act as peers as well that have been through this type of thing with children with mental health issues or substance abuse issues or whatever it is that they're struggling with. That can be there for the parent as a support. So that's really nice that they can be connected to somebody has lived experience. My unit provides ongoing in-home family supports, acting as that case manager to continue providing those ongoing supports for those families that are struggling. We have the health department on the team who's providing some support as well. We have Potomac Community Resources that are available that are helping us. Department of Juvenile Services sits on the team. I'm trying to think of all the other providers that are on the team. We work all together very, very well to support these families ongoing, and we have had great success. At the Department of Social Services, we have what we call a voluntary placement agreement. A lot of times families, will come to us thinking they want to place their children outside of the home. And we're asking them, well, what services have you tried? What counseling programs, have you had in-home services? Have you had family therapy? And a lot of times they haven't and they don't know what's available. So we're providing that helping hand, providing them with that plan when they leave and knowing that there's somebody who's going to be following up with them, a lot of times we've been able to prevent these placements from having to occur. So that is the importance of having this team.
Apologize. When you're saying you, who are you referring to? When you're saying, do you have
The family themselves.
the family themselves?
Yes.
They have an advocate for them, or is it just directly to the family?
So a lot of times they're being connected to somebody, either they had never have been connected to somebody
Right.
or they are being, the plan provides them with those resources, so they will be connected if they've not been connected prior. A lot of times the school is already is aware of this family.
Yeah.
So, but they just don't have any other outside resources available to them. So they will leave this meeting, if they are not already connected to somebody in the community, they will
Right.
leave the meeting with some connection.
Okay, okay. That's what I was, making the assumption. I just wanted to make sure I was following the path, so,
Yes.
got it.
And I think Maria has a great overview that we can walk through that'll give you some answers to some of these questions you may be having about the connection and the
Yeah.
process with it. So if we want to
Sure.
dig into that, that probably will help answer some of those
Mm-hmm.
questions.
So, as you heard from both Celine and from Heidi, the LCT, it serves as a forum of coordination amongst all the resources that we have here in the county to support the family and the youth that is experiencing some of these intensive needs. Through that process, we develop, as Heidi mentioned, an action plan that serves for the parents to understand these are the resources that we identified that would support you and your youth based upon the needs of the youth. And we provide the contact information and a little bit about each of those resources. Also, you asked the question about, is there somebody that kind of walks them through? One of the resources is Maryland Coalition of Families. And they have someone that they connect with the family that can help them process the action plan that is provided to them, as well as the implementation, making the referrals and making the contacts. So there's support for them there. The list that you see displayed is the list that Heidi was mentioning. These are the resources that are identified by the Children's Cabinet to be the mandated members as part of the LCT. And the Children's Cabinet established a 75% attendance requirement for this group. So if someone, for example, from DJS that normally would attend, if they're not able to attend on that specific date, they have a backup person that will fill their slot so that these groups are represented when we hold our meetings. On this slide, you will see the additional local agencies that are in addition to those mandated members. These are local county agencies, organizations, and resources that are concerned primarily with the provision of services for children and for families that serve on the LCT, and they assist with the development of that family action plan. This slide provides examples of some of those local agencies that continue to support us, and we are constantly looking for other agencies that may be appropriate to address some of the needs of our youth in our county, and we invite them as well. During the previous year, the LCT conducted 44 review meetings for youth. That was a 63% increase over the previous FY23. This chart displayed provides the monthly comparison, and you'll see November and February presented as peak review months for us. We saw an increase during this period of time, and this may also be due to being key times during the school year when students start to begin to display some of their struggles. Last year, we held a total of 44 LCT reviews for 41 unique youth. Of the youth referred, 66 identified as male and 34% identified as female. Of the 41 unique cases, 19% of the youth identified as Black or African American, 76% identified as white, and 5% preferred not to identify their race. Of the 41 unique cases, 15% of the youth were Hispanic, Latinx, or of Spanish origin, and 56% were identified as not Hispanic, Latinx, or Spanish origin, and 29% preferred not to answer the ethnicity question. The largest percent of referrals, 68%, were ages 12 to 16. Youth ages 5 to 11 made up 27%, and youth ages 17 to 21 made up the remaining 5% of the referrals. Of the 41 unique LCT referrals, 37% of the referrals reside in zip codes 21157 and 21158, the Westminster area. Tawnytown had a second highest percentage of referrals at 17%. Families come to the LCT with varying levels of concerns for their children. The top 3 presenting concerns for FY24 were anger and aggression, multiple mental health diagnoses, and self-harm or suicide ideation. There are other presenting concerns that arise during LCT review, but only those most discussed are included on this slide. Last year, we saw a 63% in LCT referrals over the previous year. We believe this is due in part to the strengthening partnership with Carroll County Public Schools. Together, we identified ways to enhance some of the programs and resources we have in place to address youth and their challenges. In addition, we worked collaboratively with Carroll County Public Schools, CCYSB, Carroll Hospital, and the Health Department to address some of the concerns we heard from parents of youth experiencing suicide ideation. Together, we formed a work group to identify ways to improve written communication provided to parents when youth are discharged from the ER. We are continuing to identify how we can improve the quality of information distributed to parents to better support the family once they arrive home. This current year, the LCT is looking forward to partnering with Carroll County Public Schools to address youth truancy. In addition to strengthening our partnerships, we have provided follow-up to our families. Following the LCT meeting, we reach out to parents to inquire if the plan's suggested actions were put into place, if they're experiencing any difficulty with their supports in making contact, and if the youth is not in need of additional supports, the parent is informed that their case is considered closed, but at any point in time, if anything changes, they can reconnect with us and we can add additional resources or thoughts for supporting the family. Mr. Singer, the LMB manager, and I spend time working on outreach, trying to identify efforts within the county to let the community know about the local care team and the services that we can provide to support. This year, we've added outreach during our food distribution days at both Tawnytown and the Union Bridge locations. We are currently looking to identify opportunities to engage with families within the community to share how the local care team can support families of children and youth with intensive needs. We thank you for your support, and we look forward to seeing an increase again this year with our referrals.
And if you don't mind, before we get into questions from you all, I just want to thank Maria for her efforts with the outreach that we've done over the past year and raising awareness, because I think it helps in families helping their children to become successful adults. And the more people we can get engaged and help them, make them aware of the services that are available to them, the better off that we are. So that outreach has made a huge difference. And the other thing is I think at this point in time last year, when I talked to you all about the LCT, we were struggling a bit to have the minority community showing up at our LCT meetings, and I think we've made a lot of progress in making the minority community aware of this being a tool that's available to everyone and to reaching out to them. So that certainly the increase in number of referrals is a great thing. And the last thing that I want to mention is Maria has, I think Commissioner Rothstein might speak to one of the things you were asking about, is Maria is doing a great job in following up with these families. Once you can have a plan in place, but with so much going on in these people's lives, often, are they actually following up with some of the resources that we've tried to make them aware of and that are available to them. And Maria does a great job at checking in with the family and saying, hey, have you contacted CCYSB, or have you reached out to Potomac Case Management? We said you're going to try these things to try help make things better for your child. And there's a lot of things going on often in these families' lives, and Maria is just doing a fantastic job in following up and making sure that these connections are made.
That's the, no, Ed, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. That latter part is, the biggest concern is each individual, it's a complex scenario. Not just the individual, but the family, the housing, the repairs, living not just paycheck to paycheck, if they're getting paychecks, transportation, is a huge issue. And, Celine and I have talked about that a lot. We have tools to assist, but, do we have the right approach to ensure all of the, challenges are being met? I'm not wording this really well. We have lots of tools. We really do. Carroll County, it's awesome, and this region is amazing. Are we identifying the needs surrounded around that child, that are keeping that child down? But if we help in other ways, transportation or workforce development or something, are we going to lift everything up? Does that make sense? I mean, am I?
No, it does.
Yeah.
Some of the resources, for example, to your point, a parent may not have transportation to get to therapy or counseling.
Right.
And so we're able to connect them with some of the local agencies that will go to the child's home or go to the school to provide the service. So a lot of those additional barriers come out during the conversation, during the LCT meeting. And if there is already another agency working with the family that brought them to the LCT, they have that awareness, and that's brought out during the meeting as well.
Okay.
One other piece I wanted to just say one more time is that, the referrals we get, the majority of them come from Carroll County Public Schools. But anyone can make a referral, and the families can self-refer for a local care team meeting. If they are struggling and they feel like they are just not able to get the support or don't know how to get the support they need, and they feel that they've talked to different places, they can self-refer, and the team will review it and then schedule with them accordingly. And the scheduling period is very tight. There's mandated timeframes of when a local care team meeting needs to be coordinated after the outreach is done. So this isn't something that sits on somebody's desk for 2-3 months. This is a child, a family that needs immediate attention to address what's going on because they are in a crisis situation.
But unfortunately, families' ego and pride get in the way of service to their own family. And that's why schools and others intervene, because they see it from the outside looking in.
So at the department, the policy for the voluntary placement agreement, part of that policy is that you have to have a local care team meeting within 7 days of them making that request. So again, these families are in crisis and feeling they need to remove their children from their home. We are making the referral and having that meeting within a very short period of time. And then we are doing the assessment of whether or not that child needs to be placed outside of the home and looking at the whole picture, like you said, and if they need any other resources, if they're struggling financially, if housing is an issue, all of those things. My in-home family services unit, we are providing that case management for up to 6 months to a year, depending on whatever the needs are that we're identifying and working on to address the issues that are happening that are causing additional stress for the family.
Okay.
And this is all super. I have a pet peeve, so I need to ask. Race of youth. do you, is one of the possibilities biracial or two or more races? I see the school system, I see so many people eliminating that, and it makes the kids feel like you don't care about them. The last time I talked about it, he asked the teacher, he said, "I'm not on here. Pick one." So he checked black and white, and he said, "I'm both," and they need to know that. But why, I saw on Board of Ed early on, that was always one of the categories. And academically, they were outperforming some of the groups of minorities, so I don't know if it didn't fit the agenda, but they disappeared. And I don't think it's fair. They're not, we're constantly getting more and more, so why don't we recognize them for what they are?
So we have a referral form that comes to the LCT from the state.
Yeah.
And we recognized that same concern because they did not list it as a category. And so I'm just finishing up my 1 year in this position, and I can see notes from previous LCT coordinators that asked the state the same question. And it was not identified as a category on the form. We are trying to capture that for the very reason that you just mentioned. And if you remember, I shared that there were some that did not identify race. That's why. They did not identify
why some
their
of them don't
ethnicity.
answer.
So we have revised the LCT form for this year. It's completely fillable, and we've broken it down. So instead of them writing in and identifying, we have the different categories so they can just check the box. But we're trying to capture that and to make the form a little bit more user-friendly. Because if you don't see yourself, you may not even, you'll stop right there and not even finish
Yep.
filling out the referral
Yeah,
form.
what Reed tells me is they don't care about me.
Mhm.
And it's ironic, they're a distinct group.
Mhm.
And I'll tell a quick side story that obviously you see discrimination in all areas, and you think about us whites discriminating. Well, as they've grown and get more into the local city and AAU teams and stuff, the oldest one was told recently by a group of black kids, get your iPhone out. Well, I don't have one. You got a white mother and you don't have an iPhone? You know, they're a distinct group and they need to be recognized. And that's done with my pet peeve. But thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for coming in, and thank you for the detailed report as well. It's nice that, thank you for all the effort that went into it. And it's what I'm getting at here. It's nice that the amount of information that you have presented is in here. I was just looking through the last couple of pages at all of the different programs and the definitions, and this is really helpful. This is a lot, this is so much more than I would have, hoped for last year. So thank you very much for this.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We really wanted just to make sure that you all were aware about the team and the good work they're doing.
Thank you guys for doing that.
Great work.
Thank you.
The one
Thank you.
last piece I did want to say was just a big thank you to all the other agencies beyond Department of Social Services, but you saw the mandated members. This is a huge time commitment. They hold their calendars weekly for these meetings because we typically have at least one meeting that's pulled in a week. So it is a big commitment for folks, and they're very involved and very engaged because they're typically families we already know or are already, at least one or two of our agencies are already working with. So to pull this all together and get them some success in their resource utilization and connections made and keeping those youth in the home, it really makes an impact. So wanted to just put that out there. There's a lot of agencies and other nonprofits involved in this process, and they bring that commitment to the table. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks. Next, we're gonna have discussion and maybe a decision on Mount Airy annexation.
Good morning, ladies. How are you both today?
Morning.
Thank you.
Morning.
I'm here with Hannah Weber from our Bureau of Comprehensive Planning, and we're going to be discussing an annexation in the town of Mount Airy, annexation number 46, Hank Land LLC. Just a couple of things I wanted to point out before Hannah goes into her presentation. This annexation is a little bit different than some of the ones you've seen most recently because there is a zoning waiver that's involved. So it's not just a comment letter that you would send to the town, but there is some action that you would need to take. So at the end of the presentation, we've suggested there might be two courses of action. You can either choose to take no action, and we'll come back on September 12th for you to make your decision, or you can make a decision on the letter of comment and the zoning waiver today, and we can do either one. I'll turn it over to Hannah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Before we get started on this specific annexation, I wanted to mention that John Breeding, the Director of Planning and Zoning for Mount Airy, is here. And just some points of overview regarding the annexation process. All annexations are initiated by the property owner. They go to whatever municipality and ask to be annexed, and it's up to the town to decide yes or no, we're ready to annex this property. The areas to be annexed are all designated in a municipal growth area, and that's taken from the most recent municipal comprehensive plan. And in that comprehensive plan, they are given a land use designation that property would be annexed into. And then lastly, as Daphne said, this annexation, and as we'll get into, is a zoning waiver request as well, which means that the current county zoning and the requested municipal zoning is substantially different in the uses they allow and the density requirements. So with all that being said, this is the annexation for today. This is the Pank Land LLC. It is 1.3189 acres total. It includes this entire parcel as well as some road frontage on Twin Arch Road. Here we are in the greater Mount Airy area. We are very close to the carnival grounds if you're aware of the Mount Airy area. And you can see in this gold and black outline that we are inside their municipal growth area. This annexation is part of, it's the same property owner of areas that is already inside the corporate limits. So Pank Land includes the annexation area for today, this property right adjacent to it, and then this property down here as well. But those parcels are already in the corporate limits. Here's an ortho view of the annexation area. It is improved with a residential dwelling. It's my understanding that nobody lives at the dwelling. Moving on to zoning, it's currently zoned R40,000 with the county. The requested zoning into the town of Mount Airy is industrial. So as we said earlier, because the uses allowed in our residential zone are substantially different than what's allowed in this industrial zone, there is a zoning waiver required for the annexation, and that is up for your approval today. In the 2013 Town of Mount Airy Comprehensive Plan, this annexation area is given a designated land use of industrial, which is consistent with the requested zoning of industrial. The annexation area is in the no plan service for water and sewer. The Bureau of Comprehensive Planning is providing two recommendations. One, that the town of Mount Airy give public notice by posting the property, notifying the adjoining property owners of a public hearing. And then staff are also recommending the town undergo an amendment to the Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan to bring the annexation area into the priority service category for both water and sewer. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this annexation request at their August 20th meeting. they forwarded a favorable recommendation to you all with the condition that the town go through the amendment process to the water and sewer master plan. So the zoning waiver is up for your decision today. We also have time scheduled next Thursday if you need to think a little bit on it. And as far as I'm aware, there's no public hearing scheduled yet with the town.
Has the town agreed to the recommendations?
Yeah, so again, John Breeding with the town of Mount Airy. Yeah, so Planning Commission has recommended a favorable recommendation to the town council. And they'll be meeting the beginning of September 9th, actually, and we'll be setting a public hearing for October 7th, I think it is. So with a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission to the town council.
So the firm decision won't be made till after the public hearing?
That's correct.
So my question is why? Is this to correct a mistake or an oversight, or what's
Well,
the
it's
purpose?
that parcel is sort of right now going under a grading only plan. It's a total of 51.3 acres. Ultimately, the owner requesting, the annexation is to sort of put his property back into the industrial. It also gains access to Twin Arch Road when he comes in for a site development plan. It also cleans up our property boundaries for the town. It's a very small parcel. There's no real super advantage to being annexed, but there's no disadvantage to annex into the town. And again, we are recommending the annexation and also the waiver request.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly, I can't see any opposition to doing this. I mean, the town is requesting it. It's something that we can help make happen. And, we've been having some discussions over the last couple of weeks about ways we could cooperate with our municipalities in order to grow our commercial and industrial areas in the county as a way to grow the tax base rather than having to rely on increasing taxes. So that, to me, that's what recommends itself to me in supporting this. And Commissioner Guerin, I mean, I don't know if you have any other thoughts or perspective on it. I mean, that is your area. So.
Sure. Yeah, I'm familiar with the area. So there will be a public hearing in Mount Airy if this was, okay, and I think it's important that when the public hearing takes place, people understand the larger concept of why this is happening in relation to some of the neighboring parcels as well. If it's explained simply, well, we just moved something to industrial, I think what also needs to be part of that story is as to why and how it's going to affect what's already a very busy road, which backs up past Century on a daily basis and what might be going in there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I agree. I think when that site development plan comes in, there'll be off-site improvements that'll be a requirement of that industrial development.
Commissioner Guerin, did you want to, any thoughts?
I move the board approve, sign, and forward the comment letter, including the approval of the zoning waiver request to the town of Mount Airy regarding Mount Airy annexation number 46 Pank Land LLC, with the condition the town undergo an amendment to the Keller County Water and Sewer Master Plan.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Tech Services is going to talk about Adobe subscriptions. Morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, good morning. I use some of these for work. They're not cheap.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Technology Services, requests your approval to renew the contract for Adobe subscriptions with Dell Computer Corporation in the amount of $34,121.23. This renewal is being made through a Maryland state contract. The purchase amount is within the adopted budget.
I'll move the board renews the contract for Adobe subscription with Dell Computer Corp. In the amount of $34,121.23.
Second.
Now, it's
It'll never pass.
it's various different licenses. How do you determine who gets one, who doesn't?
Well, it depends on the needs that they have. So typically, if somebody requests an Adobe license, we find out what are they trying to do and make sure that what they're requesting actually matches the need. And then just based on that, a lot of the licenses have to do with combining files that you can't do unless you have a license in Adobe.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Now we're going to talk about Trimble GPS surveying equipment.
Morning.
Good morning.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Engineering, requests your approval to purchase Trimble GPS surveying equipment from Keystone Precision Solutions in the amount of $60,563.34. Keystone Precision Solutions is the sole distributor of this equipment in the state of Maryland. The amount is within the FY25 adopted budget.
Motion to approve the purchase of Trimble GPS surveying equipment from Keystone Precision Solutions in the amount of $60,563.34.
Second.
And this is all surveying. Do we have any GPS-controlled equipment?
Yes.
And
Well,
so-
not GPS-controlled equipment. We have GPS equipment to set the monument, the GPS monuments.
I'm sorry.
So we have approximately 2,000 monuments throughout the county that
Yep.
are GPS set, but we don't have any equipment.
We don't
that-
have a dozer that
No.
grades by
No, we don't.
GPS.
We let the contractors buy all that.
I guess we should say thank you. Huh? Right?
Oh, we thank them every time we pay them.
Yes. We have a motion and a second. Any further foolish questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, approval to purchase public safety complex property.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
We're here this morning to request your approval to purchase 118 Manchester Avenue, Westminster, Maryland, 21157. The Board of County Commissioners has advertised their intent to purchase this property in connection with the public safety complex. This purchase is approximately 7,500 square feet of improved land in fee simple in the amount of $215,000. We would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Motion to approve the purchase of 118 and 120 Manchester Avenue, Westminster, Maryland, 21157 for $215,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Resource Recovery Park and Northern Landfill Master Plan. A status report.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I know we're on here somewhere.
Go to PowerPoint. There's a little PowerPoint. Nope. A little PowerPoint next to it, to the right.
Oh, that one, okay, there we go.
Yeah, we've already seen that.
Unless you want
There
to
we
talk
are.
about that again.
Yeah, it would be challenging to do that properly.
There's bottom next, yeah. that one.
There we go. Mine's all the other way around on my screen in the office. Oh, well, good morning again, Commissioners. Thank you very much for having us in today. Today, we want to provide a brief update to the board on the master plan project for the Northern Landfill property and outline how the process should go forward from here. And along the way, please, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Okay, in review, the original Northern Landfill parcel, which is shown in yellow on this screen, and I do have one question, was that everybody got a copy of the, okay, I brought extra copies just in case. The original Northern Landfill property shown in yellow was approximately 220 acres, with 80 acres permitted for the northern landfill itself. Carroll County acquired approximately 326 acres, which is shown in pink on the plan, bringing the total acreage to about 526. The land purchase was intended to allow the county to pursue and develop a master plan with the goal of establishing long-term, fiscally and environmentally sustainable options for solid waste and recycling for the county, for the residents and the businesses. These options would not have been possible on the original 226 or 220 acre parcel. Now, in order to meet the project's overall goal, we need to plan for comprehensive and diversified operations. This allows Carroll County to be less susceptible to outside forces, such as changing regulations, which we've all seen, and changing market conditions. And it supports our residents and businesses with up-to-date, efficient, and safe infrastructure, and some of that will be touched on here in a little bit. So basically, our plan will include, and these are mostly the highlights, additional disposal capacity, which would be a valuable asset even if we never use it. Disposal capacity, especially excess disposal capacity, is very rare in the state of Maryland. The transfer station location for recyclables and waste, again, if that's what we want to keep doing as far as our business model is concerned, and that would be a location not in one of the future cells as our current transfer station is. A consolidated residential use area, which would provide upgraded infrastructure, improved efficiencies and diversion options, recycling and diversion options for the residents. An upgraded entrance, internal roads, scale house and location, and a maintenance shop. It would also allow us an opportunity to really add to what could be a true resource recovery park from the standpoint of diversion and recycling options such as yard waste, organics recycling, which has been very big from the state, and construction demolition material recycling. And there'll be also property available for potentially for other value-added uses, such as solar field. Okay, regarding the overall process, we've completed step one, which is the field survey and property evaluation. Property evaluation meaning environmental assessments, where are the wetlands, where are the forestation easements, things of that sort. So step two, which is ongoing, is the engineering, design, and permitting of certain infrastructure, especially what we would need up front. The MDE Phase 1 application of this process was submitted in 2023 with the intention of getting us in the permitting queue with the state. Some of you may remember under Governor O'Malley's administration, he had put a moratorium in place on new landfill airspace. But any application that had already been submitted was grandfathered. So getting our place in line, we didn't know what Governor Moore was going to do. So getting our place in line was very, very important. That phase one is just a very high-level concept. Again, it's more to reserve our place in line. With regard to the detailed concepts, as we go through this, we can provide more details on those landfill options to the board at future dates. And permit issuance, if the process proceeds normally, will be likely sometime in 2027. Now, there's also other permitting that has to go along, not only at the state level, but at the federal level. We have EPA Title V. That's our landfill gas. So anything we do out there with regard to landfill gas. We have an existing permit, has to be modified as does along with the system. There's potentially U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permitting. So wetlands involved, if they're going to be mitigated, moved, enhanced, that needs to go through the federal permitting process as well. State highways, and we'll touch on that a little later in the presentation. We're looking at a new entrance. So that new entrance would have to be permitted, and that should take 2024, 2025 to go through that process. And then throughout, we go through local permitting concurrent with those other steps. So just to kind of give a high level of what we found through those investigations, these are some of the major features identified during the field studies, easements and record searches, and ordinance reviews. This effort really showed us, in a nutshell, where we should go, where we could go, where we could maybe not so easily go, and where we can't. So it makes it pretty easy. Covers the gamut. And just real brief, to the north, we have forestation easements that were identified. We have the FEMA floodplain, 100-year floodplain along the creek. Steep slope area, so greater than 25%, very limited what we could do in that area. To the west, we have wetland buffer, or wetland with buffer. We have water resource conservation easements that are existing. And since we did purchase the property to the east of the entrance, we calculated what the stream buffer would be. That buffer will be put in place through this process as well. And then off to the east, we have an existing rubble fill that's in the way of some of the development. We have delineated wetlands that are associated with the current landfill operation, and we have additional forest conservation easements. These are just some of the items that were found in the field during the investigations.
The forest conservation easements, there's one in the front, one in the back. How long have they been there? Were they established by previous property owners or by the county?
It's my understanding the forest conservation easement to the north was prior property owners. I'm not sure if it was the one immediate who we purchased the property from or if it was before that. The easement, you said water resource or the forest conservation? Forest conservation easement there near the entrance was done with the original permitting of the facility in mid-'80s, late '80s. Okay, all of those studies brings us to where can we go as far as potential development areas. Now, taking those site conditions into account, a target development envelope and a conceptual layout was established. At this point, and I'll use the cursor on the drawing, we're targeting or focusing on areas that are most cost-effective and readily developed for seamless continuity of operations. So to the east-southeast of the existing landfill, and the cursor disappeared, there it is. This is where we're looking at for new landfill development. Again, whether we ever use it or not, the goal would be to use it as little as possible. But that is the most reasonable area, easiest area to have additional disposal area permitted. It also allows some overlay onto the existing landfill, which takes advantage of that location as well. We're also focusing on the parcel to the southwest, which is far less suited for landfill development, to place an upgraded homeowner use area for residents to drop off trash and recycling. If you've used the areas that are out there now, you know they're getting old and they're very small compared to what our traffic flow is today. And also potentially a location for a future transfer station if, again, we want to go through that route. The commitment is we're not going to place operations in what are going to be potentially future disposal cells if we can possibly help it.
Can you point to Hatbaker and there be no changes with that, or potentially there could be?
Nothing that we're doing, anything's possible. As Maria used to say, anything's possible, it just costs money. Hatbaker is here to the center left of the property. There's no impact planned to the existing facility. In fact, a year or two ago, we helped them upgrade one of their pistol ranges with landfill staff. So no proposed upgrade or change to it at this time. Now, there are a couple of benefits for concentrating in those two areas here to the south of the facility. One is that it would allow for separation of homeowner vehicles from customer trucks, which improves traffic flow and safety. Again, if you've used the facility, you know that it can be very congested coming into that entrance. Another one is existing features like the scale house and homeowner use area can remain operational while replacements are built, and development costs can then be spread out over time. So we don't necessarily need to build everything right up front. These details they're not totally cast in stone at this time. They can change with future discussions, future review by the department. I wanted to jump to this slide. We talked about a concept for a homeowner use area. This is actually a residential use area that's in place in another county in the state of Maryland. Covers about 6 acres versus our existing 2.5. It allows waste and recycling drop-off on one layer or one facility. It accommodates about 4 times the number of residential vehicles for both waste and recycling. And 2 levels, and I wish I had a 3D of this, but I don't. The residential use area is above the road around the back, keeps the vendors, truck drivers, and everybody separate from the homeowners. Very well used, very well received facility, and something that we are planning to use, if not exactly, pretty close to it, as far as our concepts are concerned. The layout also allows for the placement of a kiosk, similar to what would be a scale house. Right now, we do not collect fees for recycling, although we pay a lot to recycle. This setup could also allow us to charge fees for certain items, especially if those recycling operations end up costing us more with what comes down from the state. Now, with regard to an entrance, we mentioned a potentially improved entrance into the landfill. This slide shows the current concept that's under consideration. The design is called a Maryland T and is in place at various locations throughout the state. This configuration, which may or may not be signalized, it depends on what the requirements are from the state, would serve three main purposes. One, inbound traffic would enter the facility directly off of 140, and eastbound customers would no longer need to make the U-turn at the crossover, go back down to the landfill entrance and come in. And if you've ever seen it, that's a pretty tight U-turn. Occasionally there are trucks, longer ones, that sometimes need to back up to make that U-turn. And the rear of their vehicles does stick out into inbound traffic. So it takes care of that situation. Second, the concept also permits traffic to exit the site onto eastbound 140. Again, maybe signalized, rather than exiting westbound and then going further down 140, making a U-turn and coming back. And third, this location results in internal access roads that would be significantly longer than they are currently. We do have a staging problem, especially on a Saturday, with the heavy customer use. This would pretty much eliminate any possibility of us backing traffic up onto Route 140, especially on a Saturday. Now, again, this concept may or may not be modified with the state. We have met with them. They keep telling us, come in with something, we'll review it deeper. We just want to kind of make sure that everybody is on the same page with it. And again, they may modify too beyond what we have on paper. So where do we go from here? Upcoming steps, again, we've completed the detailed landfill design based on a lot of factors, groundwater elevations, which we're now monitoring, and other required limitations. Complete and submit the MDE Phase 2 and 3 applications, and there 4 and 5 will likely have to occur as well. That's public meetings, public hearings. The state will likely require them. Complete and submit the detailed entrance design and permit application to state highways. Again, our county level permitting throughout the process. Developing a schedule and financial models with budget. Started to work with them on that already. And public outreach, and this is a potential option, public outreach from our standpoint via either a public meeting, website, portal, combination of both. I've seen that be very successful on projects like this, where the public is involved. And then as we go forward, continued periodic updates with the board. Again, we will have options to be able to discuss here in the near future for the landfill portion. And then at some point, potentially a request for interest would be put out for partnerships on those recycling and diversion options. There may be opportunities out there for other folks to come play with us and develop those programs for the businesses and the residents of the county. So that's where we stand today.
How many private contractors, subcontractors, whatever, do you currently have on site? What activities are they doing? And will this create more opportunity for that, or will the county take over some of it?
I think it depends on what our operational model is going to be someday. But the vendors that we have on site today who do things either for us or independently, we have the vendors who operate the transfer station. So we have the recycling and the waste vendors. We have a metal recycler who has land, operates the facility that's on top of one of the current disposal cells. This will give us an area for him to go to, which would be nice, or whoever else is successful. We have a tank recycler who recycles propane tanks, fire extinguishers, things of that sort, and the gases they contain. He leases land, it's called Pro Tank. He leases land off to the left. It used to be a BG&E tank station or distribution station over there. It's about an acre, a little over an acre. We also have the farming lease, but that will eventually at some point likely go away. But if we do other things, we talk about solar, we talk about other types of diversion and recycling operations, organics recycling, it could bring other players to the table. We could do it ourselves. Some things we're not the expert on, from an operational standpoint, and sometimes it's best to bring in a partner to do that.
Any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Look forward to
Thank
bringing
you.
more before you.
Thank you.
Do we have any callers for a public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Admin open. Does any commissioner have anything they want to talk about or request in?
I'll make a motion that we approve the closed minutes.
Say again?
I apologize. Make a motion, we approve the closed minutes from August 29th, 24, dealing with cybersecurity.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to improve the closed meeting minutes. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Like to, if I could, make a motion that if we would be so available to take a 5-minute recess just briefly for a moment, if we could.
Say,
I'd like to make a motion, we take a 5-minute recess and then reconvene for the rest of open admin, if we could, for a moment.
So a motion for a 5-minute recess. Second.
okay, a motion and a second for a 5-minute recess. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recessed.
All right.
So we need a motion to come out of recess, back into session.
Motion to come out of recess and resume session.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, anybody else have anything else for open admin?
No? Well,
If nobody else wants to, I want
I
to
got
talk
a couple-
about
I got a couple
Westminster's
things.
MOU.
okay.
My humble,
No, go ahead. You start with that. I got something else.
my humble opinion is what they've returned to us isn't acceptable. And I think we owe it to our taxpayers not to give $1.5 million for something that we can't negotiate getting something back for. And I feel the important part of today is we need to tell the city. All the city knows is we haven't voted on it. They don't know why. If we're just stalling, we haven't read it, we want to talk about it. But I think if we, what I'd prefer is us vote that the one we got, the MOU we got was not acceptable. So they have the option of either doing another one or saying, well, thank you, we don't need the $1.5 million. So
I mean, is it possible to go back to the city to try for another round of negotiations before voting on it? I mean, I know they're interested in us voting on the MOU that they presented to us, but I would like to try to go back to them without, having to go the path of a formal vote on what exists as is.
I thought the mayor's email was pretty plain that, and I appreciate they allowed us to not have customers, which weren't our customers, but that was the only thing they were willing to change, and they didn't want to discuss anything else. So if that's their position, and they needed the money by September 13th, so they're not going to have it by September 13th unless we approve it. And I just think we need to firmly tell them this is not acceptable. If we just keep saying, well, we want to talk more, A, we're going to run out of time, and B, again, my opinion, they have our last proposal, and there were one or two things in that I might have lived with if they said, we don't want to do this, but to reject everything in it, I just think that's not true negotiation, and I don't know that more time helps it.
I agree. I have no interest in going further. They've stated what they want. We went through and said these are the changes that would be necessary. They don't want to make those changes. We've provided, I think, already 1.5 million into the program. So giving them an additional 1.5 million contingent, as we described, on an acceptable MOU, and this is not an acceptable MOU, therefore we stay to the 1.5 million that we've provided initially, and we move on. Because there's a lot of opportunities where we could use 1.5 million back into the coffers of Carroll County and taking care of the quality of life of Carroll County as a whole. So I agree with you. How many more times are we going to look at the same black and white that's, been provided to us? So, yeah, I have no interest in stalling any further.
And to the money, and I agree, and it actually would be a budget transfer, which is a lot easier to do than adding money to the budget, but I think it's safe to say we're not going to move that money around in the next week or two. I feel like if they come back to us and say, well, we will talk about it, then we want to give them that opportunity in the next week or two. But I think without telling them,
Right.
last week, I think we told them we're on hold. We haven't voted yet. And I don't think that's fair to keep them on hold without specifically telling them where we stand on the current MOU they sent us. So
Just, good. And as to that previous 1.5 million, can somebody clarify the nature of that? Was that
was a
an
grant.
actual grant, or was that actual money from the county?
It was part of the county's FRF money that they
Okay.
received from the federal government.
Okay, so we received a grant. I don't know what you call FRF essentially. Is it a grant? Is it a?
So during COVID,
Yeah.
the federal government was giving out, so there were two separate pots of money. First was the CRF money, that came out in May of 2020. And then a year and a half, 2 years later roughly, the FRF money came out. All part of ARPA was the bigger bill. And the county got 37 million at that time. And we offered to all of the towns for water projects that met certain criteria, that we would look at that, the board would look at their request and then potentially fund them. And so we did one for New Windsor, I believe, and one for Westminster, and I think Union Bridge. Hampstead also asked, but they had already actually completed theirs and paid for theirs, so it didn't meet the criteria that we needed to meet the
Yeah,
federal
and
criteria. And I don't remember if there were any other applications off the top of my
I mean, just to be clear, it was treated as a grant, and since I was also part,
So, yeah,
I was
we
here.
sub-granted it to them.
I was here during this, and each municipality also received additional funding.
Oh, yeah, the city of Westminster
So-
got $18 million.
Right, so each municipality received a grant. We received a grant. Talking to the municipalities, they said, okay, what else can we do to partner with you and give part of our grant, our money to you? And we decided, okay, these water projects, because these grants, this funding had specifications tied to them. And we determined that, with Westminster, we can do this, and we would provide that 1.5 million, and we did. I mean, so we did that once, now they're asking for additional, and it's like, okay, let's do it, but
And I understand, and 1.5 million is 1.5 million, and I just wanted to clarify the source so people weren't thinking that necessarily came from our general fund or was a budget transfer or something of that nature. It was from FRF funds, which I guess, in your words, maybe we sub-granted to them. So I just wanted to clarify that point. I think it might be relevant.
but we could have used it for other things. We could have used all of that FRF dollars. I mean, we ran out of our FRF dollars. We could have used it for
More broadband.
behavioral
more
health, for
HVAC
broadband.
systems, our
Right.
own water, sewer systems, sure.
And we determined that we would take a part of it and, again, work with the municipalities on one of the 4 categories. But, that was money allocated to Carroll County, citizens, not to the municipalities.
Yeah, so it was our money
Right.
that we chose to do that with. And I think, and it shows that we value our relationships with all the jurisdictions and Westminster. And we've made this project a priority review project too, right? To try to speed it up.
Yes, and and the county's completed. We've met all of our metrics on that, yeah.
And I get, I can see both sides to this issue without question. I mean, the concerns I have on the whole project is a few things. One, Westminster's obviously stuck growth-wise right now. I mean, that's the reality. We all know that with the water issue. The other issue, of course, is this pure water project. If this pilot program moves forward and is successful, it's going to be a huge opportunity, I think, for Carroll County as a whole. And obviously, the state's looking at how this one does and how that's going to carry on past us. And believe me, I hear both your concerns. This has been an interesting process, to say the least, getting to this point. So we're looking at just for purposes, we're looking at the August 28th draft version, which was the last copy that was sent over of the MOU that was given to us by the city. That would be the version we would be voting on if we were to vote on
All right,
that.
it came last week. We're not-
Yes, that was 828,
Thank you.
yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Just keeping it straight for clerical purposes, given
What
the
did the mayor say?
various changes that have occurred.
Yeah, and I think we owe it to the city and our relationship with the city to say yes or no, not to say you can still negotiate. If we say no, they can still negotiate. They can send us a new one tomorrow and say, you didn't like that one, how about this? And I would hope they would, but we need to be able, and this is a great project, but, and it came in over budget, and that's why they want another $1.5 million. But I just think the taxpayers of Carroll County need to get something out of that. And right now, we're getting very little.
Yeah, I agree. Again, we, Carroll County, gave Westminster $1.5 million for one of the 4 categories when we received FRF dollars. And we made a conscious decision in doing that for all the right reasons. It was very competitive on how to use that money. We prioritized it, and Westminster became a priority for Carroll County to give them the 1.5. For them to come back and request for 1.5, we determined, we understand, we agree with these caveats in this MOU. And if they're not meeting the demands in the MOU that we got to a certain point, then it's incumbent on them to modify whatever is necessary for us to then release the 1.5 million. That's kind of where I'm standing. It's not like I don't want to.
And a week prior to that, maybe, Roberta, do you remember? We sent them a version, maybe not even a whole week prior,
Right.
with
Pretty quick.
maybe four changes that we felt significant. And I feel strongly, like I say, there's one of those that if they say, no, we don't want to do that right now, I would live with it. But to just say, no, we're not willing to do anything you're asking, isn't negotiations. That's my opinion.
Well, so I mean, I understand the point. Obviously, the treatment or the water reuse project is going to benefit citizens. It's going to help us to supply water to the future sheriff's building, the future state's attorney, the safety complex. And I know one of the prevailing questions we've all had has been about the length of the MOU itself and the requisite number of gallons that we would need for the sheriff and the safety complex. I think this is a mutually beneficial project for the county and for the city. I don't think anybody disputes that. And so I guess the question then is the contract that Westminster sent back to us, the MOU that Westminster sent back to us, the MOU that we want to proceed with. I mean, I'll reiterate what I said a few minutes ago, that I think that maybe we should try one more round of negotiations. But if we're calling it to a vote, I mean, could we include part of the motion to be, the request for more negotiations? I don't want Westminster to walk away from this thinking that, well, if a majority of us reject the MOU, we're rejecting the project. I mean, we certainly all see the benefit to it. I just want to make sure that the vote on this MOU is not like a death knell to the project and to the chance or the opportunity to have an MOU with Westminster over the project, if that makes sense.
Are we aware?
It shouldn't be. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I don't know how many thousands of contracts I've done. And when I hand one back to somebody and say, I'm sorry, I'm not signing this, it doesn't mean I don't ever want to work with you. It means this isn't acceptable, and a week before this, I sent you one that was, and we can talk about the individual pieces, but to say, no, sign it or forget it, then I would have to walk.
I think, Commissioner Figliotti, I agree. We all see value. That's why we're pursuing to make this happen. That's why we started with the initial money that we were provided through FRF funds to give to, not give, but to provide to Westminster. You know, again, that's, to me, that's taxpayer dollars. We had other opportunities, but we saw the value in this. And we collectively, from the dais, made that decision. I don't, now gets into the works of Westminster's, mayor and council and their governance. I don't know how they process the information, and if it came from the mayor and council vote, regardless it came from Westminster, that's their business. I don't want to get into, question, because I just don't know. But if that is the direction we're given from Westminster, my answer is we want to provide you these dollars contingent on the MOU, the information we provided, August, whatever it was, 28th, which none of us believe is unreasonable from the dais. If we do believe it's unreasonable, then we need to address that. But if we don't, and there was only, I think, 4 areas, something like that, that we feel are reasonable in moving forward. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at, just to put in the...
And I think in good faith, without a lot of notice, we put $1.5 million in the budget and said that's there for City of Westminster, provided we negotiate an agreeable MOU. And my feeling is we haven't. To me, if we don't vote, it's giving them false hope. But if you don't want to vote, I think we could direct Roberta to send an email back and say, here is the last MOU we sent you. We find the one you sent back unacceptable. Do you want to try again? And if they don't, so be it. But I just feel like, in all fairness, we need, as soon as possible after receiving that, we needed to give them an answer so they could move forward in whatever way they wanted.
I mean, directing staff to do that is the same, and I'm fine
Exactly,
with that,
yeah.
too. I mean, Commissioner Gordon, you brought it to our attention during the budget process, so this must have been like April or sometime, give or take.
Yeah.
So we were all for it. We're all like, you want it, we're going to give it. And you got, I believe, a unanimous, I would think, at that point. I don't recall.
I believe it was, yeah.
But, so you had all of us, again, from the dais, saying we agree and we want to support Westminster. At that point, it's gone months. So I'm, if we want to direct staff and have Roberta take it on, that's fine. If we want to make judgment from the dais and say, we will allocate the dollars in accordance with the MOU that we last agreed to on August 28th, I'm good with that also, either way.
So one quick, if I might, one quick thing, and I know we all know this, but just so the public, anybody watching is aware, obviously this is 1.5 that would come out of the county funds and go to the city. Obviously, the county gave 1.5 million previously to the city of Westminster. But the one thing I just want to make a point, I know we all know this, but I'm just going to reiterate this point. The Westminster residents are also Carroll County residents and taxpayers. So yes, we are giving 1.5 million of county funding to the city, but that's still assisting and involving a number of our residents and the surrounding areas. So it's not and I'm not saying we're saying this, but I just want to make this point. It's not an us versus them or an us and them, I don't want to say versus, but an us-them situation. We're all Carroll County residents. So I just want to make that point real quickly. And believe me, I get to the point where, we've got to make a decision on this. This has been a process, to say the least. I'm not certain where we get going back and forth yet again. I mean, is there a possibility? Maybe. And to your point, Commissioner Kyler, we could have a vote and still have a conversation after the vote And maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. I can't answer that. For me today, I think the best move we can do is actually have a vote. I think we at least do that, make that consideration, because if we reach back out to them, we're looking at what, another possible week? That'll put us on the 12th. They were initially asking on the 13th.
And that's what I was just going to say is, in their defense, they don't know our schedule.
No,
And when we said we haven't voted on it yet, they might have thought we would on Friday or Monday. But if we don't vote on it, the next time is
Yes,
September 12th.
The 12th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a motion that we accept the City of Westminster's 8/28/2024 MOU that they sent to us, and that we approve and give them the funding of the $1.5 million.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'd like to make one point. I understand what you just said. Yes, the City of Westminster residents are county residents. So are all the people in Eldersburg that pay water and sewer bills. I don't think it's fair that we take tax money from the rest of the county and say, you're not an enterprise fund anymore, we'll help pay your water sewer bill. So I feel the same thing about that. If we don't get anything for the taxpayers of Carroll County, we're foolish to do this. And I very much hope they would come back quickly and say, you know, well, you tried 4 more things than that, and we can do this one, and we can talk about this one, or truly negotiate. But so far, that hasn't happened.
So I'm going to vote no against this. The reason why is because there are still questions lingering about the length of the MOU, and there's still information that I have been seeking about whether or not the amounts of water being provided for the sheriff and the safety complex are there. Now, if this information had come to us earlier, if I had that information at hand, I would be happy to vote in favor of the MOU. But because I just don't have that information in front of me, and I would rather have that opportunity to negotiate these things out with the City of Westminster, unfortunately, I will have to vote against the document that they are specifically asking us to vote on today.
I'm not 100% satisfied with the MOU either, but the point has been made, obviously, that it's not semantics. It's still part of our county. Westminster does serve as our county seat, and we will benefit. There is an allocation in the MOU for us. I wanted to clarify that. It's just not enough for some of the commissioners up here, I think, because that's part of one of the sticking points. So I wanted to point that out. We are getting things from this MOU. The question is, I think, between the 5 commissioners, is it enough, and what sort of guarantees there are?
And for me,
But I'm
it's,
still a yes.
I understand that. My struggle is, what we're getting is water for the sheriff's office. I cannot imagine that they would deny water for the sheriff's office. I mean, the sheriff does a few things for Westminster. You know, I just don't think that's much of a gift.
and just again, for me, it's we have a responsibility, an authority to deal with this $3 million the way we see fit, and we do it, I think, very well up here, transparently, and I don't feel comfortable where we're at. I think if they adhere to the requests that we were making with the adjustments, which I don't believe are, too dramatic of adjustments to take care of our county as a whole, then they should do that and get the additional 1.5 million. But again, we allocated, it wasn't free money that we're just handing out. And, the initial tranche, and this is just a second. So that's kind of where I'm at, is I want to see them succeed. I want to see us succeed in total. But yeah, it's not about rolling over. It's just about doing what's right. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So It failed 2-3.
Yep.
So I'd like to make a motion that we allocate the $1.5 million in accordance with the last MOU that we agreed to, and bring it back to Westminster for their decision.
So what you're saying is resend the one we sent them before this and
Correct.
say, we're willing to do this.
This is
if
it.
You're willing to accept
Yep.
this.
Yep.
And if negotiations happen,
There's no negotiations.
okay,
This-
that's
this
what I
is-
wanted to
this
make.
is
So you're
their-
saying,
This
take-
is.
take this
Yeah,
and
this
we'll
is
give
their
you a month.
decision now
Okay,
to
gotcha.
make.
Is there a second?
So the version, if I might, real quick,
Yeah.
the version you're recommending is the one with the 4 changes then?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it was 4 or 5 or.
think it's 4.
I
but
think it was 4.
Was it?
Yeah.
4 sounds right.
Yeah, okay. But
Approximately.
yes, yeah, it was the one just before this.
Prior one we sent over.
Does anybody have a copy of that one? I'd like to see it before a vote because I would like to have, I'd like to be refreshed about what it is that we're.
I think it's on my desk.
I
If
was,
you,
oh, do we have it on emails? Can you look at it?
My phone's charging in my office.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You want to go get it? Okay.
So we have a motion and no second yet. We're waiting on the county administrator.
I'll second just to move it forward.
So we have a motion, a second, and now we need to discuss.
So the motion is to actually do what then? Because, I mean, that MOU is,
Is to allocate the
There.
$1.5 million for the water reuse program in accordance with the last MOU that the county approved
Just
August
prior.
28th,
Yeah, the
which
one prior
has
to
4
28th.
changes.
okay.
So the last one we sent them.
Yeah. So want to see this move forward.
So the motion that you made, though, does that permit negotiation, or you're
No.
setting it as a
There's
final
no-
offer?
Yeah, there's no negotiation. This is it. And this is a good thing. It gets them moving forward. Is the discussion now waiting on getting a copy of this?
Right, I
Is
just
that-
wanna-
So, yeah.
Okay. So while we're waiting, if I can move on to another topic, if that's okay.
Can we do that? Do
Mr.
we have to
President?
resolve this? We don't have a second, so we're going to.
No, I did
No,
second
we
it.
do have a second.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So we got a motion and a second, but the discussion, I guess, is waiting on the documents.
So
Well, I mean, I think proper procedure, right? We would have to
table this.
motion to table it, and then we would have to bring it up again after your discussion about a different topic,
Okay,
right? 'Cause-
okay, I don't care. Motion to table at this time.
Second.
Okay,
Okay, motion to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
okay.
Opposed? Okay, we've tabled. It's,
No, I appreciate,
Fair.
just to
No,
move,
it's true.
move forward.
yeah.
The power line discussion. Been having a lot of conversations with the governor's office, sharing that conversation also with Baltimore County and Frederick County as we're moving forward. When I'm talking about the governor's office, specifically, the governor himself reached out to me, thanking us for being forward-thinking and aggressive in doing this, which surprised me, but that's okay. And then his staff, his administrative staff, and I having the conversations. The way I'm describing it to the governor is you got PJM, PSEG, and then the state. PJM and PSEG are looking at this from a region, a state, a county / community approach. I'm looking at this completely flipped from a community, county, state, regional approach. PJM doesn't care about the Maryland boundaries. They care about Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, everything in between, West Virginia, Ohio. So they care about the region. We care about our community, our county. There are ways, I believe, and I shared this with the 4 of you, the 74 other ways to do this. There are generator plants, whatever they're called, all the way through Frederick County that can go across Pennsylvania and straight down, using the rights of way for right of ways. There's other ways to do this, and I'm sharing all of this with the governor and our legislators as well, because the analogies I've been using and I've been thinking about is we're creating a highway without any exits. It does no benefit for Carroll County. And somebody's got to wake up and recognize that there's just no benefits to us. And then the second is attacking or going after PSEG. It's like going after the cashier at the grocery store and blaming her for the prices of the groceries going up. All she's doing is she's got the, or she or he, apologize, has the job of checking out people. PSEG won the award, so they want to make their $400 million. It's PJM, and so the governor staff. So when I say the governor's staff, to me it's him as well, wants to get PJM on the carpet and in Annapolis and say, this is what we want to accomplish. That letter that was written in June, you also received, was a letter from 4 states in June of 2024 saying exactly that to PJM. We want to work together with you to come up with a solution. I mean, there was actually a positive letter. You know, if it was June of 2023, I'd be concerned. It was June of 2024. So all this information is basically April, May to today. I'm going to continue to, be as aggressive as I can with the governor's office. Nothing has gone to the PSC. They have open dialogue so people can ask questions, but, the slide deck I provide you from PJM, it's like 60 some odd slides. They did really good mission analysis. What they didn't do, though, they didn't look at the stakeholders. They didn't look at us. And they looked at the region, state, county. They didn't look at county, state, region. And that's the flip. So I'm kind of, popping open my head, telling you the things I'm thinking and who I've been talking to. Everything I get, everything I find, I share with you. You have comments, you got ideas, you want to share them back, feel free. But, and that goes for you, but that also goes for the community. Because I'll tell you, the last thing is everybody wants to write articles, and everybody wants to report on something. And sometimes these articles just want to point fingers. And I shared these comments also with our legislation, with Senator Reedy and Delegates Rose and Tomlinson, and they were so appreciative that the governor reached out to me on doing this, executive to executive, saying, hey, this is what we want. I mean, they were so appreciative that the state wants to take ownership of this. It ain't about red or blue or any other color. It's about getting things done and out of Carroll County. So a recent article said I wasn't commenting to them. Well, I didn't comment to them because I've been commenting to everybody else. If it's up
But
to them.
you did comment to them,
I
but
know.
not in the manner they
They
asked
wanted.
you to.
I know. And
Hey,
it's.
I've got a couple
yeah.
questions, and you tell me where we go with this. And it's back to our local control. I mean, we just talked about money. Okay, let's say this happens. I'm not sure how they're taxed on their easement and their lines, but I do know they're going to take between 4,000 and 4,500 acres of Carroll County land and put an easement on it. Worse, they're going to displace 50, 60, 80 houses.
Right.
So will the state reappraise if, let's say I got a 100-acre farm and they took 4 acres, are they gonna reappraise my property? Or
yeah.
am I stuck? And then, forget that for a moment, if they tear down my house and displace it, I ain't paying taxes on that anymore. So how much tax
Right.
revenue are we losing?
Yeah.
You know, not only are we getting nothing out of it,
Yeah.
it's costing us big time.
Questions. And,
And who do we ask about that? How do we get that clarified?
good question. I think, honestly, I think that would be more PSC, getting to them, asking those questions. The reason the governor is staying away from that part is the conflict, because the PSC is a standalone. And, but I think I can ask those questions and we can reach into them for frequently asked questions to the PSC. The 80 homes, that comes out if we look at the course of action using the existing right-of-way. And if we use the existing right-of-ways to put this power line, not we, but PSE&G, they're going to be crossing homes that were there well before permitting and things like that were in place. And that's where that 80
Well,
homes
but
comes into play.
if they use the right-of-way they've shown,
Right.
500 feet from me, a 20, 30-year-old house will be gone, and a 200-year-old house will
Right.
be gone. So 2 properties,
Yeah.
if they don't follow the easements. And, you know, I hear them saying,
I'll follow up
oh my
on that."
gosh, it's 80 houses
Yeah.
displaced if I do that. Well,
Yeah.
how many is it if you don't do that?
No,
It ain't 0.
I'll
And like I say, it's 2 within 500 feet of me, so I got to think it's a whole lot.
Well, and I'll just
I'll
bring
f-
up one thing real quick.
Yeah.
I'm switching gears slightly, but we're still talking about energy. So as we all know, there's a variety of solar fields that are going before PSC. Well, one thing that was mentioned last night in planning and zoning, and I'll email, wasn't much, but a very brief mention, but there could be another scenario that shows up, which of course, I can't think of the acronym right now, but it's a battery storage business or entity, for lack of a better way of putting it. That might be the next thing coming down the path, so it just keeps on coming.
Yeah, this isn't the last project we're
No.
going to see.
No,
And-
this-
And
no.
I don't know where you guys are, and we don't have time to get into all that conversation. I heard people talking about this who think it's necessary, and they said, in Maryland, even the Republicans fully believe in climate change and that we have to do this stuff.
Right.
Well, this guy doesn't. I think we've done a lot of good stuff, and again, back to control. I'm not, you know, whatever. I don't know why they think everybody supports that now, and it's just like, and I heard again, the majority of the county thinks whatever, and they don't. You know, I think we hear from a good representation of the county, and obviously, when we run for office, we hear from everybody in our district, and the delegates and senator, almost the whole county. So don't tell me what all of them feel, you know?
Right.
They don't.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I'm very grateful that Commissioner Rothstein brought up this topic. I mean, one of the things that we've previously discussed was whether or not we should pre-file a letter with PSC in our opposition to this. But I would think we should even go a step further than that. What I'd like to do, and I'm happy to volunteer to be a part of it, is to create a compendium of every single issue, concern, counter-argument, question that we've had through this entire process, so that when we do write a letter to someone, when we do have to make a case to someone, we have all that information ready to go. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we've learned from our citizens. There's a lot of stuff that we've learned ourselves. As a matter of fact, you know, Commissioner Rothstein, I sent you an email the other day. I think you probably got it when you sent us that slide deck with those 70-some other potential routes this could have taken. Back in the summer, you know, one of our, and you solved the mystery. Back in the summer, one of the delegates' aides had mentioned that there were 70-some other potential routes this could take. And we had no idea, they couldn't even remember where that information came from, but Commissioner Rothstein was able to find it.
Right.
And so I think, you know, making something like that part of this ongoing compendium of objections we have to this project I think is only going to end up benefiting us in the long run. And it's also something that we can continue to add to as time goes on, so that, again, when we do get to that point where we have to file a letter or pre-file a letter or make the case to someone, we have this ongoing list of issues or items that we can bring to bear.
I don't disagree. The Stop MPRP group matters. They matter. Your voice matters in the community, and they want to hear from you and continue to hear from you. And they're asking you to do that. So, yeah, don't, and what we're trying to do is kind of capture it and talk to others, but it matters, and I'm having basically daily conversations right now. So it may not be in the newspaper articles, and that's fine, but, I'm trying to get as much information and then share it with you, the four of you, as well as our delegation. But that slide deck, like I said, I thought it was really, really well done from PJM. What was missing, though, was risk management, stakeholder engagement, and then more specifications on the 70-plus course of action that they could have done. Those are the things that, from my perspective, would have been better. And I shared that with the state. I said, those are the questions we need to be asking.
Do you know if that's a public document?
Yeah, I found it publicly.
Okay, well, we should link to it or something on
Yeah.
our website. Because
Yeah.
one interesting thing, and I'll mention this, I know I mentioned to you in an email, the majority of those 70-some alternatives, the majority of them were upgrading infrastructure, redoing what existed. And so,
Right.
brownfield or whatever it's called,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But this whole concept that this is the only possible way now is to
Right.
build something new through
Right.
pristine farmland.
Right.
It doesn't make any kind of logical sense.
Now, they mentioned there was 5 incumbent, 4 this, 4 5. So, no, it is a public document. I just happened to find it. In all honesty, I just found it. So.
It's sleuth work.
Okay. Sleuth.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to untable,
You had said that.
unless there's more conversation on this, if we can untable?
Well, wait, to put together a compendium, do we need to make it like a direction to staff? Is it something that I can volunteer to take on and start working with staff to, what's the,
Is it already happening?
I'm not sure what the word means.
We've got our links online
Yeah.
that we're trying
So
to
I don't know
put.
where you think, what more you are thinking of that. We have staff who put together what the impacts potentially would be on the routes and things. I don't know what more you're thinking, so maybe we just have a conversation.
okay, yeah.
Take it from there.
Or for just as one example, the evidence that Commissioner Rothstein found, those 70-some other potential routes, is another argument that we put in the arsenal that we have against this thing. And we just keep building that letter, that argument. It could be 200 pages by the time we're done with it. But if anything we can bring to bear and collate to do so.
I know what arsenal means.
There you go.
I'm done, I'm good.
Can we untable the,
Yes, does somebody make a motion to, how do we do that? Untable?
I think we just have to bring it back up again, motion and second. Because it's been tabled and it's kind of off to the side, and a motion and a second will bring it back to the table.
So I'll make the motion again to provide Westminster with the $1.5 million requested for the water reuse project in accordance with the most recent MOU that we have,
That we sent out.
that we sent them, August 28th.
No, it was not, that was theirs.
Oh.
That was
when
theirs. So you're
ours?
talking about the prior, which I don't know what the
Okay,
date
so
was.
with the most recent MOU that we sent them, prior to their changes, I don't know.
That would make,
Send
and then,
about 5 days before, I don't
It was
remember
a-
exactly.
I think August 26th maybe, but
They replied fairly quickly.
we looked at red lines, August 26th, and I think it went out that day, but I'm not sure. And without negotiation.
Yeah, and without negotiation, you know, let
Do we have
them.
a second? I'll second it for discussion, and I have some questions. So looking at what we sent them, the sheriff's office, 10,000 gallons. I don't quite understand. The sheriff's office is going to use what the sheriff's office is going to use. He ain't going to start filling pools because he has an extra 2,000 gallon.
It's the Public Safety Training Center and the Sheriff's Office.
The both. And then, when they came back, did they still have both in there and they took out the public safety? Okay, so that was one thing. And I had that on the next page. And then our paragraph C, the city further agrees in exchange for the grant to allocate following the city's water and
hold on,
sewer
hold on, hold
allocation
on.
process. What? I'm sorry. That's, okay, another property. A property not county-owned, if we don't want to say it. And I'm not sure that's a drop dead for me. I don't know what it hurts, and I think it's for the good of the community. Then paragraph D asks for additional 25,000 gallons when they have their full allocation. And then the term of the MOU, which, again, the comment was made that all MOUs have a termination date. They don't. They can. And maybe that's negotiable. My concern was the first one they ever sent us, the termination date was before they'd have water. So and it terminates the entire MOU, you know, so I'm very comfortable with us saying mutual consent. And if we have a relationship, that ought to work. So that's the things that were changed. So I guess to me, the significant part of your motion is we're not willing to negotiate any of that.
No, I think
I
those
understand.
four, yeah.
Yep. But I just,
Yeah.
and I got the changes, right?
Yep.
Just one quick point of clarification, and I'm not being disagreeable.
Yeah.
And I know we don't all have various copies in front of us right now of various MOUs here. Their agreement on the wait, hold on. I'm looking at ours. Let me look at this one real quick. Yep. So theirs on the 28th did include the sheriff's, and it also says the Carroll County Public Training Center. It did include both. Now, the difference was the gallons. So it was the amount, the gallon amount.
Which,
yeah, no, I know.
They're going to use what they're going to use.
No, I
We
get
can-
that. I just wanted to
if-
point out.
If, my opinion, negotiating something like this, if we're going to quibble about a few gallons, then it's foolish to even sign this. But yeah, I don't so they did leave both of that in. So,
Correct.
so the only, we did non-county property.
Well, and we changed the gallons.
Gallons.
Because they put in gallons, we don't feel the gallons they've
Yes.
signed are.
Yes.
So if we were to strike C out about a specific property, we strike that out. And then when we're concerned about the amounts of gallons per day for the sheriff and the Public Safety Training Center facility, state's attorney, future building, instead of putting in a specific number, do we just say the amount of water that will be necessary for these buildings? And then it's whatever it is, it is. And by the letter of the MOU, you know, if it's I'm going to make numbers up. If it's 500 gallons, it's got to be 500 that's provided. If it ends up being, 10,000, it's got to be 10,000. And that way we make sure that instead of having to go back and forth, whatever whatever that complex requires is it's going to have.
I think, and tell me if this is wrong, the last time we all talked, the county side said about listing specific projects, the city asked for gallons. They wanted gallons. That was their request. But like I said, and I agree with you, it's going to use what it's going to use, but they wanted a limit.
Do we know, I mean, again, because I don't have the information in front of me, I mean, there's got to be some kind of computation or determination or projection for how much the complex will use. Do we have that information on hand? Is it something we have to
That's why
get?
we changed the gallons.
Sorry,
That staff felt that the 10,000 was more
10,000
reasonable
was
than the
appropriate. And like I say, and if they're right and it only takes 5, it'll only take 5. We're not gonna, we could hook a hose up to his building and connect it to ours.
Swimming pool I was promised in the parking lot.
Fill pools.
So
Yeah,
just-
so again, to me, I'm kind of fine with the motion, but we need to fully understand what we're saying we're not negotiating, and we can always do another motion and negotiate. You know, it's, yeah, this,
So I'll make a motion to strike C from the MOU.
you want to amend his
I
motion.
apologize. You want to amend my motion?
You're right, apology. Motion to amend the motion to strike C from the MOU.
You mean, to clarify, 1C?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, I
The
apologize.
language referring to the town
different
mall
property.
developments.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to strike C. Any discussion on the amendment to the motion? All those in favor of the amendment to the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So it's now amended to everything in here except paragraph C will be stricken.
So, for the sake of argument, I want to play this out. If we go ahead with the MOU as it is, and again, if it gets the votes and it goes through, and we say no negotiation to Westminster, though, and they want to change one or two things, that does, I mean, what do they do at this point?
Well,
There's no-
They can ask anything. The advantage I see to this motion, and Roberta, tell me if I'm wrong, if we make this motion, you send it, and they go, great, we'll sign it, then it's all, get it signed and they can have the money. If we leave it open, then we're back and forth and it's gonna delay the money. So that's why I said if we do this, it's a step, and if they come back and wanna change one thing, then next Thursday or whenever we've seen it, we can always make a motion to accept that.
And I don't, but so my concern, though, is if we send it back to them with that stipulation that there is no negotiation, this is the final offer, then we turn around in a week from now and say, okay, well, maybe it wasn't the final offer after all. I mean, I don't, if we include that stipulation that this is the final offer, I think that kind of defeats the purpose of having that discussion if they come back to us and say, we'd like to change X or Y.
So you're suggesting then that if we were to then go back and modify it yet again, it really wouldn't have been the final offer, it was like the final. Just saying.
So, right, so I would like to make a motion to amend the original motion to remove the stipulation that this is the final offer.
No. Apologize.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. My question would be, then why are we removing paragraph C if we're gonna negotiate?
Because that was something, I think, none of us had any heartache about not being there, and it was something that they didn't want there.
Economic development thinks it's very important.
Well,
I mean, we keep dancing around.
I know.
We're dancing around, and
Yeah, we're negotiating against
No.
ourselves.
so,
But
exactly, I
that's
mean,
okay.
open discussion, we could talk about, 1A, providing the $1.5 million as a grant. We could say above the $1.5 million previously provided in whatever date. So it's very clear that we are providing $3 million of one-time funds to Westminster for this water reuse project, which is a very important project, like Commissioner Gordon said, for the county, but it isn't $1.5 million standalone.
Yep.
That, every dollar is competitive, and we've shown that. And that initial tranche of 1.5 million wasn't just because, let's just give it away to somebody. It was very specific for this project because of their needs and their requests and their requirements. So we could add that to this and say, listen, this is not just 1.5, but it's 3 million.
And if we're negotiating, we can add anything we want to it next week. Like I
mean-
say, that leaves it pretty open-ended. Any more discussion on removing negotiation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Confused, no.
So 3 yeses. So we've removed negotiation. Any more discussion on the amended motion? So we're eliminating paragraph C, and we're opening it up. Then we're negotiating against ourselves to
Yeah.
take something out, but we're leaving negotiations with them open.
We sure
Sorry,
are.
I'm being facetious, but
What?
I'm sorry,
It's getting a little hard to follow. For people probably listening, it's probably getting a little hard to follow, but,
It should
just
be.
for the record, 1C, I was in favor of taking that out from the beginning. I'm not comfortable telling any municipality what they should or shouldn't do. I like the idea of trying to persuade them to do what we think is right.
Yep.
So basically, what we're doing for people who are watching is we're asking the staff to go back with essentially our final MOU back to the town. Whether we need a motion for that is, I'm not really sure, but we've got one on the table.
Right, so we've got,
The motion as it now stands is we want to send them back, whatever, August 26th, take out paragraph C, but tell them it's open to negotiation.
well, not that it was our final offer. I mean, if they want to come back and
Yep.
negotiate, they
Yep.
can. But if they choose to accept it, they can accept it as well.
Oh, yes, yes.
We're just, we're dancing around things.
Oh, my
and
gosh,
As
yes.
opposed to just making a determination and saying, listen, this is how we want to allocate $1.5 million to the municipality. We're like giving the open check. And
It's a mutually beneficial thing, and there's going to be some give and take. And, I think because we have projects on the horizon like the public safety complex, this is important for us as well. It's not, and it's important for our citizens too. And I know we all know that, and that's why I guess I'm being so specific or so hard-headed about this, obstinate. This is a mutually beneficial thing. And, mutual consent is going to be important. I was not comfortable with Westminster's version that came back to us that they said, vote on this or else. And so I voted against it.
But they're going
and
to do
if
the
we-
same thing. That's the problem. They're going to.
Well, if they do the exact same thing, then I'm going to have to vote against it. But I'm praying, and I'm praying based on what we send back to them. If this passes, what we send back to them, that's going to be the grounds to get us to a final plane of determination.
And I think in all fairness to Commissioner Rothstein's point, Commissioner Vigliotti, and I'm going to maybe surprise a few people for a second, at what point do we stop having the back and forth across the tennis court, for lack of a nicer way of putting it? So if they say, still don't like it, are we going to go back then again? Or if they say, we'll change X but not Y, are we going to keep this up? Or if this passes, are we then going to have another vote next week? And if that doesn't pass, the following week? And I hear both of you. I'm not trying to be difficult to either one of you today. I'm just saying, at some point, we've got to make the final decision on this.
Yep,
So if what you're proposing, Commissioner Vigliotti, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is we send this back to them, they come back and say no, at that point then, are you suggesting we're done?
Well, I'll have to see what they send back, but if they,
Yeah, he just said we're still, again, I've done a few of these. If I'm on the other side, you just told me there's no way in hell I need to sign what you're sending me because we'll talk more. And so it's a matter of how quickly they need the money. The current motion is eliminate paragraph C and say we're open to negotiations.
Well, no, that this is our counter, not that this is our counter offer. It's specifically to remove the stipulation that it's the final offer, not,
That means we're open for negotiations. I
Right.
mean,
That's what that means. Right.
that means do what you want. That's what that means. If we say it's our final offer, that means you can't change it. If we say it's not, that means you can change anything you want.
if we want to be analytically philosophical about this, if we put the stipulation in there that says this is our final offer, then if they come back to us with a change, we can't agree to that change next week because we said this was our final offer.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
They did say
I'm-
theirs was their final offer.
yeah, we can do whatever we want next week.
They
but-
did?
But,
and well, that was why I voted against it a little
I
while
understand.
ago. So,
I understand. So where we are is, unless we amend a motion again, we're sending them this, less paragraph C, and saying this is not our final offer. However you want to say it, we're open up Pandora's box, my opinion. And I voted against that, but it passed.
and Commissioner, you very well might be right.
Well,
Okay.
so is that action done?
No, we've
We
not
need to
voted.
vote on the motion.
We've not voted.
We added, eliminate C, we added, it's not our final offer. We voted on both of those amendments.
So now you have to
they're
vote on
part
the
of
basic
it. And-
motion as amended.
And so now we need to vote on the motion or keep amending it. And,
Well,
and I truly am so glad we brought this up and we're transparent, but for the last 15 minutes, we've been negotiating against ourselves.
No,
I
I
love
think-
clients that do that.
I think we have, and, if, like it was brought up early on about FRF dollars, to be very clear, the agreement 1A talks about providing the $1.5 million on or before September 13th. This is in addition to the $1.5 million that was provided on, we'll find the date, for the reuse program, because the county did that. This was not, federal dollars. It was federal dollars allocated to the county, and then the county had the responsibility and authority to move that money. This wasn't free money going to the city. This was a very specific, dedicated, focused effort that we believe in Westminster in doing this project for, like Commissioner Gordon said, for the city and the county. But I want to make it very clear that this is not just an initial and only.
No.
This is in addition.
And we can say that in an email, correct? And another point on our side, I think, if we first heard about this in April, I forget, I could look up emails. We've never quibbled about the $1.5 million. We've never said, well, we'll give you $1 million. Well, don't you need $2 million? We've never quibbled about that, and I think that's great. I think our intentions have been good, and I know that's your concern, but we have a motion to vote on. Does any more discussion?
And what's the motion one more time?
That we send them this, eliminating paragraph C,
C.
and
Would you
tell
like me to read it back?
Please.
Okay, the motion as recorded states, get it up here, approve the $1.5 million for the Westminster Water Reuse Project in accordance with the most recent MOU that was sent to the City of Westminster from the Board of County Commissioners.
No.
And then there was an amendment
There
to
are two
eliminate paragraph C.
1C.
And so that's now part of the
1C.
motion. And then there's amendment to say this is not our final offer.
It's two amendments after that.
Yep, yep. And so that's where we are. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And I'm
I
abstaining.
don't think you can actually vote against your own motion.
Say again?
I don't think you can actually vote against your own.
Did I vote for the motion?
even with
I
the
can't
amendments?
remember.
I don't know. We
Yeah. I
don't
think
follow
you're-
Robert's rules that closely, but
You,
It-
yeah, you made the motion, but then we amended it to the point where it sounds to me
Technically,
like
That he
you
doesn't
no
agree with
longer
it, so-
agreed with it.
I'm
So I
fine
don't know
with
if that
that.
means he had to withdraw his motion or not.
No, he
I
wouldn't withdraw.
abstained,
Did it
so
pass?
it passed 3-1.
so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
As long as it passed
I'll-
without you.
I'll
just
abstain.
Abstain or
I'll
whatever.
I'll abstain.
Yeah. I mean, we don't
think-
follow Robert's rules that closely, but if it,
Okay,
and the intervening,
I have no idea.
I think Commissioner Rothstein violated Robert's Rules of Order. He should be tied to
I'll
a
do
stake
push-ups
out
later.
front and whipped 10 times by,
with a wet noodle.
yeah, we can split up the whip.
So it's a
Is it
three,
open
so it's a
negotiation?
3-0-2. 2 abstentions.
Okay, while we drag the meeting on, do we get any more public comments?
Oh, okay.
Do we
I'm
have,
sorry to say no.
and is there anything else in administrative open?
No, sir.
And we approved the closed minutes, so it's time for agenda review.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Wanda.
Are you ready, Wanda?
Thank you, Wanda.
Thank you for your
Hey.
patience with us.
Yes, thank you for, you sat there with a poker face and did not.
You know, it's like a matter of revenge.
Good. You did good.
As a matter of revenge, she's gonna like schedule us for something in like a different state.
probably,
And we're gonna
yes.
show up and nothing's gonna happen.
Okay, next week, Monday, September 9th, Transit Advisory Council, Commissioner Kyler. Tuesday, September 10th, shows open. Wednesday, September 11th, 8:30, the 9/11 Memorial Ceremony, Commissioners Kyler and Rothstein.
And I will also attend.
And I'll be in attendance as well.
I have, and it was on there.
What's that?
I have in-person opioid prevention coalition meeting. Technically, it's from 9 to 11, and Vivian's going to notify them that I'll be late. 1 p.m. joint meeting with Carroll County Public Schools and the Board of County Commissioners, and all 5 of us are there. 5 p.m. Carroll County Public Schools Board meeting. 6 p.m. Maryland Municipal League, Town of Hampstead dinner meeting, and Greenmount Station, Commissioners Kyler and Rothstein.
And I'll, there's a 9/11 ceremony in Mount Airy at 6:30 on the 11th that I'll be attending. I'm not sure what my exact participation is yet, but that's 6:30 at Pine Grove Chapel. Thank you.
Okay, Thursday, 9 a.m., 2024 Aging Your Way, all 5 commissioners. Because of that, our open session is 10 a.m. And item 1, Masonic Lodge Anniversary Proclamation, and change who's attending, VIP's not attending. Constitution Week Proclamation.
Constitution Week, hot dog.
What's that?
Constitution Week, hot dog. I'm excited. It's Constitution Week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is capitalized, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
yeah.
want it all caps. What do you
It should
want?
be.
What do you want here?
I want it all capitalized.
Do you want to amend the schedule?
Are you open? Are you open to negotiating that?
I was going to ask, is it his final
Maryland
offer?
Wine Festival.
I think it's like
Anniversary celebration, that'll be discussed also. I was just looking at who was coming.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I thought you were wondering whether they were bringing wine to the meeting.
And I've got a question. I probably haven't been paying attention. Was Priority Carol always
No,
called
it's never-
item 1?
It's never been an item before. I noticed that
So
today.
really,
I don't know why.
really,
the-
that should just be Priority Carol,
Yeah.
and
It was on
item
today's
2 should
agenda
become
that
1.
way.
Chris
Yeah.
Lamb wanted it that way.
That was me.
Chris
That was
Swain.
me, because it matches the voting record then. When you call out item 2,
Yep.
that way it matches the voting record.
But we don't vote on anything in item 1, so
Well, you don't vote on everything and always on item 2 always, so it actually matches it's still in the voting record, though, the
Okay.
priority, Carol.
We can
Okay.
figure it out later.
This sounds suspiciously like a negotiation to me.
I don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just semantics.
Yep. Item 2, or whatever number, Child Support Administration. Item 3, if needed, and we do not. We voted on the annexation, so we don't need that, correct?
Correct.
So that messes up the now I'm totally confused on numbers. Item whatever is calendar year benefits plan employee contributions. The next item is contract award roof repair and public comment. Admin open, agenda review, followed by closed session, a ribbon cutting at Craft Culture in Eldersburg, Commissioners Kyler and Rothstein. Friday shows nothing. Saturday, the Maryland Wine Fester, Commissioners Kyler and Rothstein. And 4 p.m. Veterans Appreciation Dinner in Tonytown, Commissioner Rothstein. And the podcast is Commissioner Gordon. Any changes, corrections? We're good with 1 week. Monday, September 16th shows nothing. Tuesday, September 17th, Commissioner Guerin Commerce Breakfast. Commissioners Guerin, Collar, and Rothstein will be there on the edge of our seats.
Don't get too close to the edge of your seat. You might be disappointed.
Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Gordon. Joint meeting with Planning and Zoning and Board of County Commissioners, Commissioners Gordon, Guerin, Kyler, Rothstein, Vigliotti. Veterans Advisory. I don't know what we do with that because we can't be two places at once. And that the 1 o'clock meeting's scheduled for 2 hours, isn't it?
I believe so.
Don't attend.
The joint meeting?
Yeah.
Just don't attend
Yeah, we
the
can't
advisory
attend.
meeting. That's
Yep.
all.
What's that?
Just don't attend the advisory meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Not often.
Yeah. So, is that your feeling too?
I think it's what we have to do because
Okay, I'm
obviously I
gonna get
think
Vivian to tell them we have a conflict.
master plan, I think, has to
Yeah.
carry the weight.
Wednesday, September 18th, Farm Museum Board Meeting, Commissioner Vigliotti. 4 p.m., Maryland Governor's Workforce Development, Commissioner Rothstein. 5 p.m., Community College, Commissioner Kyler. Thursday, 8 a.m., closed admin, 9 a.m., open meeting. Item 1 is evidently priority, Carol. The next item, grant award submission acceptance. The next item, approval to submit application and acceptance of award. Item 4, funding of Carroll County Library. Is that to talk about the fund balance or?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
They asked for it to be in September.
They said, yeah.
So,
Back,
yeah.
like 2 months ago, we said,
They could
you
have-
got your other money.
Right,
And they said, we don't have time until September to talk about fund balance.
right. So this will
Okay,
be that.
so that's what this is.
Yep.
The next item, approved departure, sheriff's vehicles. Next item, Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Program applications. Next item, exercise an option to purchase, property for the Critical Farms Program, public comment, admin open, agenda review, and Commissioner Guerin is doing the podcast. So are we good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
Going to close for land acquisition.
For land acquisition. Well, we need a motion to go to close for land acquisition and then adjourn at the end of it.
Motion to go into close for land acquisition and then to adjourn thereafter.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.